Welcome back to the podcast, folks. In a sec, we'll crack on with episode 55 with Gareth Jones. But first, to this week's sponsors of the podcast, and they are Ultimate Add-ons. Ultimate Add-ons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles. With a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe, secure, and easily accessible, the Ultimate Add-ons product range is ideal for any rider, from the commuter to the round-the-world adventurer. Why shell out on an expensive GPS system when you could use your smartphone, keeping it charged and within reach to take photos of your travels at the same time? Ultimate Add-ons waterproof, shockproof and dustproof tough cases are available for all flagship smartphone models and are designed by riders for riders. Find out why Ride Magazine gives Ultimate Add-ons their coveted Best Buy certification. Keep riding this winter with Ultimate Add-ons. It's all about the journey. I've been using the Ultimate Add-on stuff way before they became a sponsor. I had the phone case. I've always used the, I think it's called the Helix strap mount. That's the one I've always used. I think it's in the pedal cycle, the bike section of their website. Go there. It straps around any bar at all. It means I can use it on almost any bike out there. There's generally always a way that I can mount my Ultimate Add-ons case and that mount somewhere on the bike, and then obviously I use that with Kalimoto as my sat nav. Perfect, job done. So if you head to ultimateaddons.com, use the code TeapotOne10, that's TeapotOne with the number 10, you'll get 10% off. Right folks, let's crack on with this week's episode 55, Gareth Jones.
For some reason, we all hit it off brilliantly. So that's, they've come, and we just got wrecked each time they've come. And,
no way, not you.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I mean, even more than we would usually with anyone else. But just hilarious. I love them both.
This is absolute gold for the podcast. We should have started.
Start away then, Bruce. I'm good to go.
Right, we'll crack on then, folks. Welcome back to Brew Time. I think this is episode 55. I think we're at now. So this week we have Gareth Jones.
How are we doing, Bruce?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm really, really good. Thank you ever so much for the invite to come on your on the 55th anniversary of your
my absolute
amazing brew time. So yeah.
People say I'm a maniac because I did my trip. If you don't know, folks, I've been around the world, I did my trip on the Jigsaw. Well, you tackled Africa on, what was it?
Well, I did it on my sort of much modified old 1951 Harley Davidson. Not your usual adventure bike. It's a good travel bike, but not your usual adventure bike.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It's not even like it's a Harley Davidson. It's a 1951 hardtail.
Yeah, well, we always say, and no offense to anyone across the Atlantic, we always say it was made in America and finished in Wales. So yeah, it's a rigid frame, kickstart only. Very, very, very basic motorcycle. Probably about 2 to 3 inches of travel on the front, depending if the springs are broken or not, and that's it. So yeah, it was sort of as far removed from a Jigsaw as you can get, but both fairly different travel bikes.
Absolutely, equally out of place for the terrains they found themselves in.
Yeah. I think we're kindred spirits, Bruce.
So, like, obviously, you did much of South Africa, didn't you? You didn't. I don't mean this derogatory. You didn't go all the way around. You didn't circumnavigate Africa, but you concentrated sort of down in the southern to middle regions, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, the sort of going back to the start of it all, I kind of wanted to do open garage door ride to Cape Town. And that was always the dream from a young boy. And that, when it was, I vowed I'd do it before I was 50. And life sort of, work and mortgages and pets and stuff sort of take over. And I was getting sort of older. I'd eventually sort of booked the slot. I booked a certain time off work, saved up the money, and unfortunately, Ebola hit on the west side. And getting into Egypt, there was just doors shutting because of the Syrian war. It was just getting more and more challenging. And I was just, whatever I did, it just seemed to be a door closing. Yeah. And I was up at Horizons event up at Donington, and happened to be wandering around Zen Overland's stall, chatting to Gabe. And I was telling him, oh, bloody hell, I'm trying to go, but the doors are shutting. And some chap who was browsing in there said, have you thought about shipping down to Southern Africa? And it never even crossed my mind that I could, whenever I've gone away on the bike, you go from your garage, you catch a ferry to, France or Spain or whatever, and you ride from there. It never crossed my mind to do anything different. And I went, oh, I hadn't thought of that. And he said, oh, well, we're off to Kenya. We're flying the bike out to Nairobi. Pretty much the same time I was going. He said, have a word with the joyous company, Motor Freight. I thought, oh, okay. And I was quite new to the overland world. I've been motorcycling and traveling on motorcycles since I was about 20 years old, 18 years old riding, but traveling pretty much most years from about 20 onwards. So I wasn't new to motorbike travel, but overlanding was a whole new ball game. So I went and saw Motor Freight, and it's not a cheap thing, but it was certainly nowhere as expensive as I thought it was. And that was my answer, is suddenly I don't have to think about the doors shutting. I was a little concerned about some of West of Africa for the Harley as well. I'd done a little journey there back in 2009. So my trip was 2014. It was. I ended up using Motor Freight, which was as easy as getting on a cross-channel ferry. In fact, easier. I dropped the bike off at Heathrow at Motor Freight thing, and a couple of weeks later, I flew out to South Africa and literally just went and picked the bike up and job done. It was so easy. It was wonderful. So I concentrated on Southern Africa. And at the time, it felt like I cheated. And I did feel quite kind of annoyed. It's like, bugger, I couldn't do anything about it, but it just cheated. Consequently, by the end of the journey, I was so glad I'd spent the 6 months down there. In particular, I had the most amazing time, and the bike was brilliant. And consequently, again, sort of a year or so, 18 months later, I did actually do London to Cape Town. And I enjoyed the Southern Africa trip much more than doing London to Cape Town, because it's just clocking up miles. That was the short answer, Bruce.
That is the shortest I think I've ever heard you talk about your trip. Folks, if you've never listened to Gareth do a presentation at any like hub or overland event or anything like that, you will know that, like me, Gareth likes to talk.
I think it's a Celtic thing, Bruce.
Oh man, it's brilliant. Like trying to watch you get your presentation, your talk crammed into like a 45-minute slot. The panic that sets in.
Oh, the first time I did it, again, long story short, I ended up going out to South Africa to do my first presentation after the trip, 6 months after the trip. And I had no idea, absolutely no idea. I turned up, it was an Horizons event, first one in Africa. And Grant and Susan were there. And they said, oh, have you got your presentation ready? I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I said, well, yeah, I got photos on a stick. I don't even know what a stick was at that time, And I said, oh, well, hour's presentation. How many photos you got? I said, 280. No idea. They said, is it on? Is it on whatever you put it on?
PowerPoint.
Keynote now, PowerPoint. Yeah. Oh, what's PowerPoint? I'm a milkman, I don't understand this kind of thing. So fair dues to Grant, he did spend quite some time with me going through it all. We got it down to, sort of about 150 photos. But I overran by about an hour and a half. People didn't have their dinner. It was... it was interesting.
Brilliant.
But
the story is fantastic, man. There's so much which we will do our best to cover as much of it as we possibly can in this chat. I know you watched the Spencer and Kathy one, or you've listened to the Spencer and Kathy one, so I'm sure you're familiar with how it goes. I post up on social media. People have the opportunity to leave questions, and we go through the questions and see where it takes us.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I promise I won't do any sandwich jokes.
I think there's some in. I've actually, Kathy. If you don't know what we're talking about, watch the Spencer and Kathy. I tell you what, that's very rude of me. I didn't say. So, Slange, let's crack open the tipple of choice.
Yeah.
Enjoy. To your health.
Yes, yours too.
Oh, lovely. Now, anyone that knows Gareth and his lovely other half, Maria, will know they are infamous for their mojitos. Absolutely infamous. It is, you're in for a good but long night when the mojitos come out with these two. I was half expecting you to have them on the go. Nothing to do with you. Maria is the connoisseur, isn't she? She's the mastermind.
Well, she's the crazy one. She'll outdrink me. She'll bring me into the table, and she is very good at mojitos. But she's branching out now. She's branching out into a few other different cocktails which we've been sampling. But I thought it was best. I did think of doing mojitos for this evening, just for, sort of posterity. But I get a bit shouty, and I'll rabbit on even more than I would normally if I go on mojitos. So I'll stick with the red wine, and it'll keep me chilled enough, hopefully.
I get a bit shouty. Brilliant. Right, let's crack on with questions and just see where it takes us, shall we?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Fantastic. Right. First of all, we'll go across to the clan over on Patreon. So it's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Matt Jordan. 70 years from now, when modern bikes are the same age as your 51 Pan, do you think there's anything out there in the current market that'll have as much appeal? Or do you think modern bikes lack the heart and soul of a classic? Oh, this is one to get the juices going straight out the gate. Nice one, Matt. So good question. 3 weeks ago, I bought my first modern new motorbike since 1987. Right.
Which I love. I haven't stopped riding it. 3 weeks in, I've already had its first service, and it's great. I bought a Triumph 1200 Scrambler.
Ah, have you? Interesting.
I love it. But the thought of that in not even 70 years, and I'm really impressed with Triumph. Triumph supported me on the London to Cape Town trip. Really impressed with it, but the thought of that actually making it anywhere in even 20 years' time is probably, and nothing to do with me riding it, is probably, there's too much electronics. And much as they're brilliant when they work, everything now is designed for a short lifespan, because everyone buys vehicles on PCPs. Yeah, so they only have to last the life of a PCP, is kind of my thoughts on that. I'm sure there'll be something. I mean, the 1200 GSs have seen the early oil-cooled ones seem to be pretty robust. But the new stuff, I think the electronics will be the problem. But maybe by then they'll have solved it all. But I'd still take the Pan. Still take the Pan in 70 years if I can still do it. But it's an interesting one. But I think I'm sure they'll all do it, and hopefully the electronics will work fine for a long time. But that would be my major concern. Mm-hmm. What about yourself, Bruce? I mean, yours is a traditional, still old school motorbike, isn't it?
What the Gixxer? Yeah. I mean, there's apart from the ECU, there's no other there's no ABS, there's no traction, there's nothing. It's just your standard old traditional sports bike, really. I'm still sort of captivated by the Gixxer, by my Gixxer, by that sports bike look. I still love the look of that bike, and it will be a classic, definitely. Well, if not already, 50 years. Yeah, 50 years time when it's as old as your Panhead is now. I'm pretty sure that Gixxer 2011, what's that, L1 Gixxer? it's hopefully it will be a classic. I'll never get rid of the thing, but I think you're totally right with the electronics. I do think electronics will be the downfall. I think it's the electronics are the weak point, I'd suggest, of modern bikes.
I think it's the expendable bit. If you see what I mean, that's it's like, the engine, suspension, and stuff like that will always be rebuildable. It'll just become financially not viable. When you've got so many things on it to keep them working. But on the reverse of that, who knows? In 10 years' time, you might be able to fix everything on your phone on the motorbike. If you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, true.
So, who knows? Technology moves, very quickly, doesn't it? So, I'm just impressed that I've got indicators on this bike, this new bike. It's quite good. And one of those, you push a button and it bloody starts. And
I was just going to say, it's not a kickstart, is it?
No.
How are you finding the 1200 Scrambler? Have you cooked your nuts yet on the exhaust?
No. I sit on top of a hot oil tank on the pan.
That's a valid point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. No, I mean, you can feel it. I had it a week and decided I'd try the Guy Martin-esque slash cut pipes on it, just because I can't leave anything alone. It was a week old, and I thought, no, it's too quiet for my liking, and I put them on, and it did run noticeably cooler off the Cat, but it was too noisy and too harsh for my liking then. But watch this space, something might happen with it at some stage. Gotcha. But I haven't taken an angle grinder to it yet, which is what I usually do with new motorbikes. So,
again, watch this space.
I know, cut as much stuff off. I mean, again, no disrespect to any of the Harley will, but I always said the best accessory Harley could make was an angle grinder, because underneath it, all the nonsense is a fantastic motorbike.
There's something about Harleys, isn't there? There's something about the way you make the way they make you feel when you ride them. I was gobsmacked when I took the first one out for a ride. I was like, I actually enjoy this. I never thought I would, but I actually enjoy it.
I think they're just misconstrued, really, because a lot of people buy them for lots of different reasons, and each is valid, but they kind of got into a sort of bit of a trinket stroke jukebox scenario with them, and they lost the sort of my thing is they lost a little bit of the real motorcycle part, even though they're fantastic motorcycles. They're not for everyone, and I completely get it, but actually the engine on them is very addictive. It's a huge torquey motor. If you look at it, just as a basic thing, it's an air-cooled pushrod motor, which is very understressed generally, and they're fairly robust, a very fairly simple thing. Sound like anything? I mean, I've got Airhead GS from '91 as well, and it's obviously different configuration, different bike, but the basics it's a very simple air-cooled pushrod engine motorcycle. Not too different to, as I say, the world's probably most travelled. And, if you look at Tiff and Sam and, all those people riding those kind of bikes. So there's, the basics are pretty much the same. And they're fun. They're fun to ride. And it's
Absolutely.
fun to ride them hard, because people don't expect them to be ridden hard.
So, Totally agree. It's just, they made me enjoy just being on a bike and riding a bike. And I've said it in a couple of reviews. Like, I found myself most of the time when I'm riding a bike, everything's a competition. Any traffic in front, I need to overtake. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm a 44-year-old man, but anything in front, I'm like, I don't like anything in front. I want to overtake. It's stupid. On the Harley, I just found myself enjoying being on a bike. Do you know? I'm not saying that I'm not capable. Yeah. But I just found myself happy to be on a bike and enjoying just riding. It was weird.
Yeah.
And they do hustle, some of them will.
Yeah. I mean, mine is all not what it seems. So it's had fairly hefty modifications done to it. But exactly the same as you off a traffic light. Not so much traffic lights because, though it'll do it quite fine. I go out before I did the sort of bigger trips. I used to go out to the Alps or the Pyrenees or the Dolomites every year, and that bike just excels. Something like Stelvio, it is phenomenal going up Stelvio. It's like a big supermoto. It's got big wide handlebars. There's very little on it, so it's not as weighty as you think it is. But it has monster torque and hairpin bends on an A road. Everything's going to come past me. I mean, it's not a top speed bike at all. Mm-hmm. You put me on a mountain hairpin bend road, that bike, I'll put it against anything at all.
Handles, does it?
Hairpin bends because it's rigid. You're just hurling on its side.
Yeah.
And you're not waiting for suspension to wobble around or anything. And as soon as you've laid it down, you're accelerating out. And we were racing, me and my mate who helps me build it. He's my best mate, rides a very similar bike to mine, bit shovelhead, but very, very similar, rigid. We were racing the locals on KTM 690 supermotos up Stelvio, and we were whooping them to the top.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah, proper, yeah. Because we got probably double the torque. And it's not long straights. As soon as you put a long straight in, everything's gone past us. But if it's only 50 yards straight and then another hairpin, they're fantastic.
Awesome.
So, I'm not, as I say, it's a very interesting bike, and people don't expect it. They don't expect it to be ridden up those kind of roads. Yeah. And I'd love to, there's nothing, I mean, that was, when did I do that? We did a Grand Alpine tour. We did about 4,000 mile in a couple of weeks and did every col we could possibly do from the Alps, down through the Alps and down to Stelvio. And I think I only went on a motorway past Milan, maybe, on the way back up from the lakes. Everything else was B roads. And you get in the zone, don't you? The more you do, the more you get in the zone. And it was, I'll never be able to ride like that again. That's, as you get older, you kind of, and the bike's a bit more worn out now after Africa.
Just a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, there's loads of questions that have come into my mind just from what we just chatted about there, but I reckon we'll fire through some more questions, and I'm sure they'll open up the same sort of avenues for questions and stuff. Next question, Gary Whipperman. Gaz, how are you, man?
How are we doing, Gary?
Hi, Gareth and Maria. Hope you're on the mojitos. There we go. Please tell us about the adventures in the Unimog. See you soon. So you've bought the Unimog, haven't you?
We have bought a Unimog. So I came back I've done a couple of big trips. So the one on the Pan is what most people know, but I also was part of the thing called the Grapefruit Adventure, which was teaching kids about healthy eating. And we did London to Cape Town. So I did that. That was a 3.5 month trip. I came back from that, and bless Maria, she puts up with an awful lot. I mean, sort of the world I kind of choose to live in. And she said, well, how about, I'd like to come. Well, my bike usually only has one seat. She's doing a test, but she's only got one seat. So she said, how about we, next adventure, let's do something completely different. And I'm up for that. I've been lucky to have, my Pan trip was the dream trip I'd waited all my life for. And she'd always wanted to do a truck trip. She had an old Volkswagen camper van, done a bit, but I think she's Nessa at heart. From Gavin and Stacey. She hasn't got a tattoo of a Welsh dragon, but she thinks she's
that. I'll leave you alone.
I know. She'll kill me for that. But so we didn't set out to buy a Unimog. We almost bought an American school bus. I was looking for a Sprinter or something normal. I wanted 4x4. I've always had Land Rovers most of my life as well. So I wanted 4x4, and from some of the stuff I'd done down in Africa. So we tried to do normal, but we're quite rubbish at normal. So we went off, and I had a big argument. For those who know Yoka Selin, he also has a Unimog and has been wanting a Unimog probably all his life. And we had a very big discussion at Winter Overland. And he was saying, you need a Mog. And we just about bought this American school bus converted. And I said, no, I don't want a Mog. They're big and thirsty and, but I love them. But they're not kind of what we need. And again, long story short, we ended up we were going to look at a Mercedes Vario, the big boxy van, sort of converted. Yeah. And it was all right, but Maria didn't particularly like driving it. And we pulled into a garage in it. We test driving it, and we pulled into a garage, and a bunch of old people in a motorhome, like older than me, 70s, sort of came over and chatted about motorhomes to us. And I just went, this isn't the world I really want to be in at all. So
put you off instantly.
Yeah, it did. You know, they were waving and caravans were waving at us and stuff. And I went, this is not right. But when we went up to see the Vario, an hour away was a Mog. And we just went, well, we'll go and have a look at it just to get it out the system kind of thing. And I'd seen them down in South Africa in particular. I'd seen quite a few. And I had a little corgi one when I was a kid, and I love it. I mean, I like 4x4 stuff. So, you know, they are great. We went and saw this Mog, not the one we bought, but we took it out. Maria just did not stop laughing. She drove it better than she drove the Vario, 814, I think it was. So we drove this Mog. We both just cracked up laughing the whole time. And you just go, brilliant. Okay, this is kind of, so we put in an offer. Unfortunately, we didn't get that one, but we were in touch with the company who specialise in them, and they said we might know of one for sale. So we ended up getting one nearly a year and a half ago, and awesome. I was driving it back and forth to work when I worked. And it's the funniest thing. It's again, it's as bonkers as the Harley is, and I kind of quite like that.
I think for anyone not sure of what a Unimog is, best description. If you think of like the big trucks you see in the Dakar Rally careering through the desert, it's basically like that, isn't it? It's a big utility truck for adventure overland travel.
Yeah. And they're brilliant. They're not fast. They're not. I mean, it's a big old 6-litre, 6-cylinder turbo diesel engine. It's the first diesel I've ever bought. I've gone over to the devil's fuel eventually. I knew I would at some stage. I've always been petrol. All Land Rovers were all petrol. But it's fab. It's 1978. It's proper German engineering. Comparing it to my old Land Rover, you know, you shut the door on the Mog, the door shuts and you wind the window down. Whereas I do it on the Land Rover, the other side door opens and the window falls out. So, you know, it's kind of, but it's all kitted out. It's all, you know, it's got, you know, we spent sort of a while sort of kitting it out now. It's changed a bit. In fact, one of the first times we took it anywhere was winter overland. We picked it up in the September, October. I sprayed it. It was in fairly poor condition paint-wise, so I sprayed it up. We took it to winter overland, and the first sort of do we had in it was when the bar shut. Half a dozen of us ended up back at the Mog.
I was there.
Mr. Smart here was stuck in the corner. He doesn't necessarily fit, and it's 5 foot up in the air to get into it. And if I remember rightly, I had an old overlanding sort of camp lantern thing. It's a candle, and I had it hooked on at the top because I like traditional lighting, paraffin lamps and stuff like that. And when you were shit-faced, you got up and just whacked your head on it and smashed it all over the floor. Oh, no. Yes, I don't know what time.
I don't recall that, Your Honour. I'm sorry.
Yes, I remember. Yes, I've had that a while. I have fixed it now. Man. It's all right. Put new glass in it. But and then you kind of, you know, teetered down the 6. We got a little ladder to get into it, 6 steps to get into it. So yes, Bruce sort of christened it.
Sorry.
In a drunk way.
Awkward. I genuinely don't remember that.
Night. It was a great night.
I don't remember that. I thought I had one mojito and went to bed.
Yeah. No, you had more than one.
Whoops.
Luckily, I don't have a GoPro, so we have no footage of this.
That's lucky.
No, it was a good night. It was nice. There was a few of us, but it's a fantastic thing. But unfortunately, we were supposed to have gone off and we were going to do, hopefully, winter in Morocco in it last year. But obviously, the world changed. And so we're on hold. We're off in it tomorrow, all being well. So we're off out for about 4 days up in Hale and Wye in it, up at Baskerville Hall. I don't know if you've been to Baskerville.
I've not. No, I've never been.
Yeah, it's where we used to do Hub. So we're meeting up with a mutual friend. Actually, we're going Ludmilla.
Oh, yeah.
Is we're meeting up with Lou there. So
cool.
I think I've got a feeling Jackie Furneaux may be turning up as well.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So it should be a nice weekend.
Oh, say hello from me.
Yeah. And it's and the fact that it's chucking it down with rain all weekend. I'm glad I'm not camping, and I'm glad I'm not on the Triumph. So
what is going on with this weather, man? It's ridiculous. I just looked at the weather forecast. It's rain every single day on the weather forecast for the next week.
Well, this time last year, it was where we were all locked in and couldn't go out the door, and it was a heat wave.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Crazy.
Anyway,
there we are. So the market's good. Thank you, Gary. But we will catch up at, I think we might be taking it to ABR. So if you're ABR, we'll see you there. If not, we'll catch you at Overland.
I think Gaz is going to be at ABR. I can't make either. Sadly, I can't do ABR now. And I can't do the Overland either. I'm at the moment. I'm due to be in, Scandinavia for most of September.
Oh, right. Yes, I did hear you were off on a jaunt.
Yeah, got a bit of a big trip coming up, so I'm looking forward to it. If it happens, I don't know if it's going to happen yet. We'll have to wait and see. But
you're old enough to be vaccinated, Bruce.
Do you know, I've already had my first jab and I'm waiting for my second because I'm on the at-risk register, apparently, because I had when I came back from a trip, I developed an erratic heartbeat. So I had to have the old cardio version, where they defib you. They basically switch the heart off and restart it to get it back into rhythm.
The timing, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's just not firing properly. So
That's justice for you, though, Bruce. Mate.
Everyone told me that bike would be a nightmare and it will never make that trip and the electrics will fail and the engine will fail. The bike was faultless, apart from the subframe. The subframe was a bit weak, but apart from that, the bike was faultless. And it's me that ended up being knackered at the end of it. I've got a dengue fever and a dodgy heart and everything by the end. You're not because of that.
Bruce.
This is it, yeah. Good old Scottish engineer in here. Girders. I'm rusting as we speak. Right, next question. Pete English. Hi, guys. Hope you're both fit and well. Question. Finish the sentence. The movie or TV show that traumatized me most as a kid was... So, what film or TV show traumatized you the most as a kid?
Easy Riders.
Yeah?
Absolutely. They blew up the pan at the end. I still can't watch the end.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
It's the most iconic.
It's the most iconic film ever, motorbike film, and I have never seen it yet. I will watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so so that's the reason you got the pan then?
Kind of. I'd love that film for me, as long as I can remember. And I don't want to spoil the end for you, Bruce. I mean, it's been around a while, but if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil the end. I must admit, I'm more of a much more of a Billy bike than a Captain America bike. I did the chopper thing years ago with Harleys and Triumphs, that I still can't watch it. That, and if you want to go back further, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was the other thing which blew my head.
Which one? The child catcher.
Yeah, I used to have to go and sit in the foyer, and that's a bit embarrassing when you're 18. They gave me free sweets. They took pity on me.
Do you know, I was just going to say Jaws. Jaws probably has had the biggest impact on me because I have never, ever liked being on the sea ever since. I don't mind being in a boat and I don't mind being under the water, but floating, like treading water in the sea, scares the shit out of me. It doesn't matter where I am. I could be off the coast in Scotland, off Peterhead or Aberdeen. Do you know what I mean? I shit myself just looking at the open sea in front of me. I hate it. And it's because of Jaws.
Bruce, you need a bigger boat.
I need a ferry.
No, Jaws never never bothered me. But I the last time I was out in South Africa, I did a cage diving off in Gansby, down on the south coast there, and it was bonkers. We had real doubts. Both me and Maria love our wildlife, absolutely love our wildlife, and we had real doubts about, is it morally and ethically right to do it? But we were assured it was, and we thought we got to, and it was. If ever you get down to that part of the world, or you're in a part of the world where you can do it, go and do it. Even if they are magical creatures, absolutely magical creatures.
Love to.
Yeah, it was a real highlight.
Don't get me wrong. Although I have this thing about being on the sea, like treading water in the sea, I love sharks. I would love to cage dive with them. I love seeing them. I think they're incredible animals. And I meant to do I meant to do the cage diving either when I got to South Africa, which I didn't end up getting to, sadly. But when I got to Australia, that was another aim. I thought, right, when I get to Australia, I'll do the cage diving. But by that point, I was so skint by that point. I just couldn't, I couldn't afford it. It was like, yeah, I'll have to do this another time. But it is something I would love to do. Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful thing.
And it might alleviate your fears then, or just come swimming in the Bristol Channel, Bruce. The worst you're going to experience here is
it's a big jolly.
yeah, basically. It's better than it used to be.
I've got this other thing in my head now about, it's probably never ever going to happen, but it's definitely there in the back of my mind, just churning away, rowing the Atlantic, like rowing solo across the Atlantic. But I've had this like vision in my head since Jaws of me getting eaten by a shark. It's always in my head. And then I'm starting to think now, shit. Is this what's going to happen if I try and row the bloody Atlantic? Because you've got to get in the water and clean the boat and all sorts,
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's a great thought. I must admit, you kind of go, I think I'd go completely loopy. You're not moving fast enough for a start.
No, you're not.
And I used to do a bit of sailing, dinghy racing in my teens, and we're big tidal here, massive tides here, and if you caught a race wrong and the tide was, you were heading into the tide, you were just going backwards. And I know I ride a Harley and I'm used to kind of going slow, but going backwards just there's no movement, and it just but an amazing challenge to do though, Bruce. Bloody hell.
I don't know. It costs an absolute fortune, so it'll probably never, ever happen. But it's just something that's just raising its head, and it's sat there in the back of my mind at the moment. I'm like, I don't know. I had three young Scottish brothers on, the McLean brothers. They came on the podcast, and they did it last year. They rode the Atlantic last year in the Talisker Challenge and set world records and stuff. I think they did it in was it 38 days or 37 days, something like that. Yeah, phenomenal.
Bloody hell.
So I was chatting to them, and it was just like, oh, wow. It sounds more of a mental challenge than a physical one, for sure. And then there's just been another group that have done it. Do you remember Pritchard from Dirty Sanchez?
Yeah. He's down the road from us.
Right. Well, he's just done it with 3 other guys in a challenge called Monkey Fist. They did it for sadly for a male suicide charity, and they're all vegans now, so it's for an animal charity and stuff. And one of the guys from that group, Johnny, he's actually coming on the podcast in a couple of weeks to chat as well.
Cool.
Be interesting to chat to him.
It's going to juice his flowing, Bruce.
Yeah, it has. Because I've got into rowing, on the rowing machine out of my garage since Christmas time, and it just started popping into my head. Oh, this could be a challenge, but it's like the 200 grand you've got to raise.
Right. Okay. I was going to say, if you want some practice, what I can do, I think we got to, to get the feel of it, get your rowing machine, bring it down to South Wales, because we're twinned with Atlantis, and then we'll attach it to the back of the Mog, and we'll just go and drive over the beacons, towing you while you're doing your rowing machine.
Excellent. Just throwing buckets of ice cold water in your face.
It's going to give you a bit of insight into what the Atlantic's like.
With sheep nipping at my bollocks all the time. Just make me think of the sharks.
You can take one with you if you really have to, Bruce, but,
Let's not talk that. We'll not take that any further.
But 38 days. I would have thought that would have taken a lot longer. I don't know why. I know nothing about it. But 38 days to cross the Atlantic in a rowing boat.
Yeah. It ranges from, I think the record is sub 30 days. I think it's like 28 days is the record. But it can go to over 100. If you're doing it solo and the weather's not good. Excuse me. Yeah, there's a real discrepancy depending on how many people are doing it and the weather, really. So, I mean, it's just a pipe dream at the moment, but we all know how these things start, don't we? So,
yeah. Well, I was going to say the other way of doing it is do what Dylan Wickramer did, and to turn the jigsaw into a powerboat.
Imagine that. That was crazy. Yeah, he turned his bike into basically the power source for a boat, didn't he? To do the Darien to cross from South America to Central
to Colombia.
Yeah.
His book is fantastic. I mean, the film is equally as good, but the book is one of the nicest books. It's a fab book.
What was it called again?
Really, When the Road Ends.
That's it. That is it. Gotcha.
When the Road Ends. Yeah, bonkers. But no, I was just thinking about those sites. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a lovely book. The film is there. I think you can get it you used to be able to get it free on Amazon Prime or whatever, but it's When the Road Ends. He kind of revisits it on the film, but it's fab. He's a absolute star. So, but I was just thinking with the McLean brothers. You said
McLean brothers, yeah.
Who did it? McLean brothers. How many of them? Three. 38 days. Do you reckon they could put a motorbike on a rowing boat and get me to Tangier in a couple of weeks?
Probably.
Because Brittany ferries are a bit sporadic at the moment.
I'll put you in touch with them. I'm sure they'll give it a bash. No problem. Anything for a challenge. Right, next question. Yeah. Bob Holly. Hope all is well, gentlemen. All good. Thank you, Bob. Question. If you could go for a ride, a brew, and a conversation, who would you rather roll with? Who would you rather roll with and why? Evel Knievel, Steve McQueen, Travis Pastrana, or Rossi? So, ride, a brew, and a chat. Evel Knievel, Steve McQueen, Pastrana, or Rossi? Who would be your choice?
For me, absolutely no question, Mr. McQueen.
Is it?
He's my absolute hero. Great Escape, one of my favourite films on any Sunday. If you actually look at my photos of the Pan trip, if you look at my crash helmet, I've ridden open face Davidas for many, many years. And my crash helmet is a copy of a Solar Productions, which was Steve McQueen's production company when he did on any Sunday.
Proper fanboy. Awesome.
I am a proper, yeah. But I used to do a bit with sports cars as well, and I go to Le Mans. I used to go to Le Mans every year for the 24-hour to watch it, not compete. But so I love what he did. He raced for Porsche and was a racer, a car racer, sports car racer in his own right. Obviously, his motorcycling is, fantastic. Films and just an all-round petrolhead. The films, Great Escape, brilliant. Papillon, brilliant. Le Mans, absolutely love, not for everyone. But he's a petrolhead, and I kind of like petrolheads. So for me, they're absolutely, all great. I'd go, but it'd be nice to have a whole weekend with all of them. But Steve McQueen for me every time.
I was thinking initially when I was reading it, I was thinking McQueen, and then I thought, no, Evel Knievel could be a scream. You kind of hope that he's going to be that wild character. He is actually that wild character. Or is he one of these people who the public face is this crazy daredevil type, but privately he's really reserved and, you know, quiet. I don't know. I'm hoping that he would be equally as boisterous off the bike.
The fact that he did a lot of his jumps with a Harley Davidson worries me. Yeah. I'm not sure I want to talk to someone who did something that mad on a Harley Davidson.
Says the man that took one round Africa.
Yeah, I kept mostly both wheels on the floor. Mostly.
Yeah, I think Evel Knievel could be a scream.
It would be a toss-up. For me, Steve McQueen, but I think Evel Knievel would run a close second. Great question.
That is a good question. Cheers, Bob.
Yeah.
Right, next one.
There's a great book, actually, on... Sorry, just to go back. There's a great book about Steve McQueen's making of the film Le Mans. And it also touches on a bit of On Any Sunday, called A French Kiss with Death. And for any McQueen fans out there, I'm sure if you're a McQueen fan, you probably read it, but it's a really, really interesting book of sort of a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, because it was Le Mans he hated making it, basically. Yes. But it was, it's a fantastic book. French Kiss with Death, really interesting.
Because Le Mans didn't do well, did it? Like the film.
No, it was bombed. He wanted it a lot. I think at the same, just before they released Grand Prix, which was probably the film that McQueen wanted. He wanted it all about the cars, and in fact, a lot of the story is you know, they added because they needed a story. He just wanted racing cars. So it's a really interesting book, but it was not a film that I think he enjoyed making. Which I think at the end of it, that's when he sort of bowed out. If I remember rightly, a bit vague, but I think that's when he made On Any Sunday. He got fed up with the Hollywood and did On Any Sunday on his own, off his own back. Yeah. So and
that's a good film.
Yeah, that started
iconic,
didn't it?
Didn't it? Absolutely. Next one, Philip Martin. Do you guys think traveling around the world overland with family, spouse and kids, not necessarily on a bike, has a very different taste of an adventure than traveling solo? What do you think it would be? What do you think it would be missing, and what are the gains? Oh, good question. Who do we know that's done it then with like a family? I don't think I know anyone personally who's done it with a family, you know, with kids involved as well.
No, I met a few people on the road who were traveling with family. I met a Swiss couple in Livingston, and they've been on the road for 3 years in a Land Cruiser, converted Land Cruiser, Poopy, very South African Land Cruiser. And they'd had a son born. Son was a year and a half, maybe 2 by the time we met them. They gave birth on the road and kept going. They were at their wits' end. They were heading home back to Switzerland by the time they'd got to us, and they just said, we're fed up of basically living out of it's a quarter of the size of the Mog. And it was just a shit tip, their van, because and they said we can't go anywhere because the baby. I don't have family. I like solo travel. I'm looking forward to traveling with Maria because the hangover will be horrendous, but it'll be great fun traveling.
You're not going to be sober enough to drive at any point.
Well, she drives it as much as I do, so that we can take it in turns. But no, that's I think the challenges would be. I think it'd be hugely rewarding to take. I don't have kids, but it would be hugely rewarding to have kids who are old enough to kind of view the world a bit. I think that'd be really interesting, showing. I don't know, a 10, 15-year-old, the world of that there's more to it than a computer screen. I think that'd be really interesting. I'm not, convinced I need kids to go and do it. I'd rather a motorbike, but or maybe the Mog, but yeah, interesting.
There's a young couple who I follow on Instagram, and I am frantically trying to rack my brains for their tag, their handle. I think they might be European or possibly Portuguese, South American, but they are on the road with like all their young kids. And I think they've adopted kids as well, because they've got, I think they have they've got a black kid and an Asian kid, and I think they've got about 5 or 6 of them now. I think they've all come back to whatever country they domicile in whilst COVID is out there. I remember following the trip, and they made the decision quite a while into COVID that, we're gonna head back now. I think it was maybe at that point where everyone was going, oh shit, this is maybe a bit more serious than perhaps we gave it credit for.
Yes.
Before like May, June, July, that sort of time last year. So they made the decision to go back, and there's now a big extended family in their post. I can't remember them. I'll put it, folks, if you listen to the podcast, check out the show notes, and if you're watching the video, check out the description, and I'll put all the social links, but I'll put this one in there as well. Really is well worth following, because you see, like when you look at their young kids, like they're in nappies, or they were in nappies at one stage anyway last year, and you see what these kids are doing, and as you said, the things that are presented to them just by being out there traveling, the wildlife that they see and the countryside that they see, and you're like, well, that's incredible. It's not something that is normal for us anyway, when you grow up.
No. I think the education you're going to get on the road, and I mean, it's got to be as valid as any schooling to get the perspective of the world from actually seeing it. There is, and I can't think of the name, same as you. I'm sure if you Google it, you can put that up as well. There's an Argentinian family who've been on the road for many years in a vintage car. It's like 1930 old Ford or Chevrolet or something like that. Looks like something out of Bugsy Malone or Al Capone or something. And they've been on the road. They've been to the UK, definitely. And there's about 6 of them. And they've travelled in this car for years. And the kids were kids when they started, and now they're 20-year-olds and stuff. And every now and again, I'm sure there's probably YouTube stuff on that, but it's an Argentinian family in a vintage car who have driven for years on the road, and that's always intrigued me.
Definitely.
The best I did was a milk float round town, but that was an adventure in itself.
We'll get to the milk actually in a second, but what you were saying there about like the opportunities and how amazing that must be for kids to grow up in it. But then I'm also thinking to myself, you'd have to be careful that you sort of impose is probably the wrong word, that you introduce boundaries to your kids as well, because you don't want them growing up feral, just thinking they can do anything, do you? You want kids, but you want your kids to feel like they can accomplish anything in life, but they've got to realize what is right and wrong and think for themselves, surely. Do you not think?
I don't know. See, I think I was kind of quite lucky. I lost my parents quite young, but I kind of lived in the countryside for a little while and went a bit feral. Maria grew up with her mum is an absolute star, but it was a hippie. So Maria, other than the mojito, is as straight as a die, because she couldn't rebel against her mother because her mother had done it all.
Right, okay.
So I think as a kid, I was fairly bonkers when I was younger, as we all were, I'm sure. But so I think life on the road, the kids are going to probably grow up and go and do a 9 to 5, be a solicitor or an office job or something, because they've done all the
Wonderlist.
crazy. So, but interesting. I think just the view of the world, not media led. I think is just an interesting thing, because the media is, it has its place, but it's a cloudy sort of vision of the world, we'll say. It's doctored.
I'm glad you said that. It has its place, because it 100% does. And I think I'm going to sound like Joe Rogan here, but I do think it's a valid point. True journalism is an essential part. It's something we need. People who are out there reporting facts, what they see. That is essential, because we need to know what is going on in other countries. And that's where overland travel is just so amazing, because you're not You're not in some package tour bus going from airport to hotel to tourist attraction. You're not in that. You're traveling, you're living, you're breathing, you're smelling, you're experiencing, you're mixing with the locals. You're getting ill and having to rely on help of locals and doctors. You get to know and experience that country, don't you? And it's not through the TV, it's through your own interactions with people. It's what I think is so amazing about our sort of travel.
Yeah, I've gone through a couple of elections in Africa, which are properly crazy. I mean, our elections here are so tame. Even Brexit was tame for an African election. I did it in Zambia and in Ghana, and I was in Ghana when the election was on, and it was at the same time that Gambia were having the prime minister there, or president, had been elected out, but he wouldn't leave. And it was going to get to the point that the Senegalese army were going to go in, we can do a bit of a coup, and it was getting a bit crazy. And I was in Ghana at the same time. They had an election, and any African, just completely crazy, absolutely crazy campaigning and just bonkers. But we were just outside Accra, the capital city, being hosted at a farm, place called Blue Skies. And we were told not to go out on election day in particular. And even though Ghana is one of the most happiest countries I've ever been to, election day, stay put. But we went out the following day. So we stayed put, and we were watching a BBC News in the lodge we were staying in. And for anyone who hasn't been to Ghana, Ghana is not a third world country. It's a modern, you go into Accra, it's skyscrapers, there's, modern car dealerships. It's by UK standards, it looks like a Spanish hot city. Gotcha. So I always think sometimes you look at things and you think, oh, it's a bit sort of third world, but it's not. It's because it's a hot country, and so buildings are different and this and the other. Anyway, back the BBC were watching it, and they were reporting on the Ghanaian elections. They didn't do it in Accra, in this modern metropolis. They went to one of the few kind of mud hut villages, traditional villages, which, there's many of them, but they work for that particular environment. But you just go, we were watching it in just outside Accra and watching this BBC News footage going, everyone who's watching that is just going to think Ghana is some sort of third world country with no infrastructure and just, people living in mud huts. And it's just not true. They were just a vibrant, fantastic, beautiful country, which, yes, there are some mud huts, but there's also modern infrastructure. And the BBC sort of reported it in a particular way, which, I get that's what people want to see, but it's not true.
That's what really annoys me now about modern media, not just BBC, but all of them, as far as I can see. When I've, in my previous role in the Old Bill, I'd be involved with things within the city, within London. You'd be involved in incidents and, it's just stuff that have happened that makes local, national, international news. And I was there and I saw what happened and I know what happened. And you look at what's reported on the like you said, and you just think that is 100% false. It's tainted politically. It's tainted in whatever direction they've chosen to take, whether that's political, whether it's racial, whether it's a gender-based, there's just all these outside influences that you can see have been brought in. And you think, that's not how I thought news was supposed to be reported. I thought it was supposed to be based on the facts, and that's that. And it just isn't now, is it?
The BBC in particular, and I think as a country, especially if you travel a bit, the BBC, we're quite proud of it. I mean, today in particular is not a good day for the BBC, obviously. Kind of we're quite proud of, there's an integrity and a morality to it. And, yes. And you just feel let down that we're being manipulated. And I think, back to the overland thing, that is the true joy of our overlanding is there is no manipulation. You are seeing stuff and you can make your own mind up. And, it's a big learning curve. You kind of go, well, actually, I've got to, don't just believe everything that you're fed. And
100%.
Modern world maybe is, social media, etc. as well, has its, amazing place. And we look at the Arab Spring and stuff like that, of how social media, sort of move that forward. But also, you are manipulated, I'm very happy to go and see stuff firsthand.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. And I know we've chatted about this before. Everyone chats about it that's done trips similar to what you've done. That when you get out there and you meet the people from all these different countries, you perhaps have a preconceived idea as to how it will be and how they will be. But when you meet them, just about everybody, you realise, is exactly the same as you and I. They're just people are open, they're friendly, they're a bit cautious maybe of strangers, obviously, but people have the guard up sometimes. But essentially, they want to look after themselves and their family, and they'll help if they can. And it's just fantastic for the heart and soul. It's fantastic for your soul, isn't it, to see that firsthand?
No. I think that's, one of the things which I get asked a lot about certainly the Pan trip in particular. It's all when you're scared. And I was watching your podcast with Sam the other day, Sam Manicom, about you asking about fighting
the nicest man on the planet. The nicest man on the planet.
Yeah, we can all aspire to be Sam, can't we? But no, it was true. It's the fact that I get asked, weren't you scared? I don't know if many people have been to Barry, but I'm from Barry. Anywhere else in the world is kind of quite no, it isn't. Barry's lovely, but I was not anywhere. In particular, watching that podcast with Sam, and you've got family or friends in Joburg.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
is that right?
I've got, one of my best mates, his family are all from there.
Yeah, and I'm not blind to the problems. I mean, Joburg in particular for South Africa, but I got lost. I had a very big disagreement with my sat nav. We had many an argument. It was my only enemy on my trip, and I'm not very tech, as Bruce well knows. Just trying to set this up, I'm not very tech minded. So the sat nav just told me stuff, and I believe it. And unfortunately, it took me into proper downtown Joburg, where when people saw my track after, just went, you can't go there. You're just not the right person to be in that particular part of town. And I kind of stayed out of cities a lot. I'm not a city person anyway. But it took me into proper downtown Joburg, where you stand out a lot. I stood out a lot, pretty much anyway on that path. But and not at any stage there. It was probably I drove for a good few miles down a city sort of main street, and it must have been a traffic light every 50 yards, 50 meters, whatever. So you've got to stop, wait till the traffic lights go. And I'm clearly the odd man out, we'll say.
Yeah.
But not once did I ever feel threatened. I didn't even feel uncomfortable. People would just look at me. I think people were kind of flummoxed, to be fair.
Yeah.
But people just look at me and just smile. And at the end of the day, exactly as you said, people they're just getting on with their life. If you're unlucky, you're unlucky. And I can be as unlucky a mile down the road, or in London, or in Bristol, or in Cardiff, or Paris, or wherever, as I can be in downtown Joburg. And if you're unlucky, shit happens.
Absolutely.
But actually, if you just treat people decent and smile and just be honest and true and just accept that people. I just think it's I've worked it out. I've spent almost a year in Africa on motorcycles on and off, and 20. I didn't write it down. 20 countries I've done in Africa. and I have never, ever had anything stolen. I've never felt uncomfortable. The biggest problem is authority, more than, your history speaks for itself. But authority was the biggest problem. But people generally, wherever you go, and I've traveled a bit, not on motorbikes in different parts of the world, people are great. People are fantastic. And
absolutely.
And it shouldn't be something people should worry about. If you're unlucky, you can be unlucky in your hometown.
I totally agree, but you always have a moment. What's your biggest bum clenching moment from any of your trips?
Oh, blimey. I had a car pull out with me in the Pyrenees once, which I swerved to get around.
I love that. 20 countries around Africa on a 1951 Pan. And for you, the most dangerous point was Switzerland, a car pulling out.
It was in the rain as well, which was a bit hectic. When I got to Cape Town, I was very kindly through... Do you know Alex Jackson? Capstan motorbike?
Yes. Tours. Yeah. He does all the... great guy.
Yeah, KTM rider, runs Capstan. If anyone needs to go to Africa and can't do what we did, go and get in touch with Alex. He's an absolute star. Alex,
he does the Ride for Rhinos sort of charity rides, doesn't he, as well?
Yeah. Google Alex. If you just want to do 2 or 3 weeks in Africa, he'll sort you out bikes. He's also a game ranger as well, so he knows about the wildlife. He is just a star when it comes to Africa. Absolute star.
Sorry to interrupt, but he also does. Sorry to interrupt, Gareth. Does Alex? Is he not the only accredited person to do motorcycle tours through Kruger National Park as well? I think he is.
I think he probably is. Yeah.
He'll actually go through the game reserve on the bike.
Yes. Yeah, because he's his love and knowledge of wildlife. So if ever you're going to go through Africa, you want someone who knows about the wildlife, and he's been doing it for 16, 18 years, something like that. I was very lucky to, he hooked me up with a friend of his in Cape Town. She came and picked me up from the airport, and I stayed with her for a couple of days, and we went off riding. And then Alex flew in, and we both rode up to the Horizons event together. Awesome. So for my first time in the Southern Hemisphere, having him as a mate to ride up with, and we've become good mates since, to ride up with. And then I ended up going and staying with him on the game reserve and stuff. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I have no allegiance to anyone, but I think if someone is good and you know they're good, you should shout it from the treetops, because there's a lot of sort of hype and as a sort of manipulation, and sometimes the people who are really good don't get a mention. And
totally agree.
If you want a fortnight or 3 weeks holiday in Africa, I can't recommend him highly enough. His knowledge and his passion is there. He's 10 times more passionate than I am, and I'm passionate about it, as you well know. So he's great. But back to the original question. I was in Cape Town, and the girl I was staying with, she had a GS 800 and a Harley Sportster. So first time there, we go off for a ride. So my Pyrenees thing with the car, I also went off the first day I was out there, and I am buzzing because this is a lifetime's dream.
It's happening.
In the mountain while I'm riding off with, following the girl. We went up the coast to a restaurant, and we had a lovely meal, and only one beer, but it's just beautiful. It looks like the south of France down there, and it's fantastic. And I came out full of joy and excitement and everything, and I forgot to take the disc lock off the bike. Literally the first day I'm there, and kind of kicked the bike over. Loads of people looking, went to ride off, and so that was another. I didn't drop it, but it was close. So it's I get excited, don't I? So you forget stuff.
It's so easy to do, man. It is so easy to do, isn't it? It's the one everyone warns you about, and you always say, "Don't be daft." Of course, I'll not do that. Everyone does it.
Yeah, always put it as close to the fork leg, so you're not you're not doing,
you're not going too far.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, nothing crazy other than those.
That's awesome to hear. Really is awesome to hear. So that's all the Patreon questions. We'll move across onto Instagram now, folks. So that's at TeapotOne Insta. You're not on Instagram, are you, Gareth?
No, God bloody hell! I only just managed Facebook.
Gotcha.
Flipping heck.
Oh, I'll put your Facebook links in the description and stuff. So, first question is from Spencer Conway.
Oh, bloody hell, what we got now?
Apart from me, who are your main motorcycle inspirations? As in, apart from Spencer, not apart from me.
Yeah.
Apart from Spencer, who are your main inspirations?
There is only Spencer.
Good answer.
And Kathy. And Kathy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, shouting stuff from the rooftops. It does sound like a plug, but it is a plug. If you haven't read Spencer's book about his circumnavigation of Africa, I read that book in 2 days, and I'm quite a slow reader. I don't have a good attention span. I read his book in 2 days, and he took me back to Africa. So if you have interest in Africa, read Spencer's book. And he is inspirational. There's no question about it. The man's as mad as a hatter. I heard Kathy makes good sandwiches. Sorry, Kathy. No, they're fab. They are absolutely inspirational. Inspirational characters. Like everyone, I read Ted Simon as a boy, Jupiter's Travels. Yeah, and I suppose, the next one, the nicest man in travel is
Sam Manico.
Yeah, and Sam, I think Sam, there was a couple of people who inspired me immensely, and Sam was one of the first people, before overlanding was particularly popular. I remember going up to the NEC with kind of my trip in mind and seeing Sam sitting on a stool on the old Travel Dry shop stand. There was no overland area or anything, and I read his book Into Africa, and I kind of, that inspired me immensely, because I suddenly realized that normal people, and I say this with the utmost respect, normal people could go and do stuff, and I think Into Africa, I suddenly realized as a as someone who's traveled a lot on a motorbike, that I could go and do Africa. And I think the inspiration from his book, apart from being beautifully written, the inspiration of, there's kind of a regular guy. He's not sponsored. There's no funding. Just went and did Africa, that was inspirational. There's another guy who I've never met, but I have conversed a little bit online with, is an American guy from Alabama called Doug Wathke. I don't know if you've met Doug.
Yeah. I've not met Doug, but I follow him a lot. Yeah. Seems to know everybody. Knows everyone, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, Doug went around the world on I think it was a 48 engine Chief.
Yeah,
thought that was a bit tame, so then went around the world on a 65 panhead chopper, very much like Peter Fonda's chop, and did full on, Trans-Siberia and proper, long way round stuff.
Do you know what, Gareth? I'm a little bit suspicious of Doug. I think he might be CIA or something, because whenever there's an issue happening in the world, Doug crops up on his bike and seems to be there traveling, and you're just like Egypt. Remember when Egypt was just, they had the terrorists storm the beaches and everything, kill a load of the tourists and stuff. Well, Doug cropped up there on my Facebook, and he's in Egypt now, and I was like, no one is going to Egypt at the moment. What are you doing in Egypt? Yeah. And he was like, it's fine. Yeah. Everything's cool here. I'm going to go and meet a friend. And
probably on a completely unsuitable motorcycle.
He was on. I think he was on, either on the Harley or the Indian. He was on like a cruiser type.
He would have been on I think he did Middle East on a Chevrolet. He called it a dirt still or something, or Bob saying it had suspension, but it was, and so especially when I got to the point that I knew I was going to do a journey, Sam and then Doug Walsh. So Sam, that normal people could do it. Not that Sam is normal or Doug is normal, but then seeing Doug doing his round the world on a pan chop and just going, well, bloody hell, if they can do it, I can. I mean, I'd had the pan for 20 years or 15 years before I'd gone. So I knew I could, I wouldn't have taken it otherwise. But yeah, those two people were probably the inspiration for that particular trip, as well as Ted Simon from a kid of looking at it.
Absolutely.
And Daktari. You're too young for Daktari. Daktari would be... My Love of Africa it was an old kids' TV program about a guy in a Land Rover. Again, My Love of Land Rover is the same. Driving around Kenya or South Africa or something in a Land Rover. I think he was a vet and he had a cross-eyed lion called Clarence. For those old enough.
Oh, I've heard of Clarence. Is that where that comes from? I've heard from Clarence the cross-eyed lion. I've heard of that. Yeah. What I was going to say was that's where the beauty of things like the Hub event and the Overland event, where you can actually go and meet like all these people who've been there, seen it, done it. And as you said, you meet them and think like you're normal people. You're like me, you're just normal people like you and I. And you're like, wow, okay, right. If you can do it, it sort of takes that superhero aspect out of it, doesn't it? That it's just not attainable. Yeah. It is attainable, but you obviously need to put a fair bit of planning and saving, and there's a financial implication.
Saving, yes, no planning. Yeah. Well, it's weird. I very kindly... Nathan Millward organises the adventure stage in Excel show. And Nathan very kindly, albeit weirdly, asked me to go when the first time he did it. It's the first time I met Spencer and Kathy.
Oh, okay.
And so I'd seen his TV program. And so I rock up with her. I mean, I think it was Spencer and Kathy, Sam was there, Graham Field, Jacques Lucassen, you must know Jacques.
Yeah, I know Jacques.
Around the world on his crazy Dutch guy. Dylan was there, Dylan Wickwam, Austin Vince, the usual culprits, And I'm there, and Sean Dillon on his C90. He's got the record for highest altitude on a C90, Irish guy, lovely, lovely guy. Anyway, so we were all there, and that was a Q&A thing, which was quite nice. Q&A is lovely because you don't have to prepare. It's just questions. So Nathan, absolute diamond of a guy. And unfortunately, so he put Spencer on. You had like an hour's slot just to, give you a spiel. And Spencer was kind of new in that world because he'd been away a lot. And I think it was his first event in overlandy kind of stuff. TV series already out. And so Spencer comes on and gives his full-on crazy kind of world of Spencer, the joy that is Spencer on full form. And, being shot at in Kenya, and he's got a bullet hole in his swing arm and stuff. Yeah. And Nathan, so we'd only just met. And I loved them from the day I met them because we got drunk as skunks on tequila. Thank you, Kathy. And we kind of hit it off from there on. But so Spencer's on, does it, and everyone is just gobsmacked. They're wide-eyed, the jaws are on the floor. And then Nathan put me on after. And you go, well, I'm talking about
Thanks, Nathan.
Countries. And I know my USP is it's a stupid motorbike, but it's still, you've got to follow Spencer who's been shot at and stuff. And I just remember thinking, well, how the bloody hell do I follow that? You just can't.
No pressure.
You just can't. And I just remember going, well, my opening line was, well, I went and did 6 months around Southern Africa on my bike. But unlike Spencer Conway, I didn't get shot at. I just had a fantastic bloody holiday. It was amazing. It was kind of quite nice. And I always remember Nathan coming up going, that's brilliant, because you need the Spencers in the world because he's as nuts. And, yourself included, doing proper crazy stuff. And then, but he said, actually, it was quite nice to get the reverse of that, of people watching my presentation saying, well, he had a nice time. I didn't get robbed. I didn't have any hassle. I just had a really, really good time, welcomed everywhere. But I did it on that stupid motorbike. So I'd love to think, and I think as once you've done the journey, the fact of I'd love to think that someone somewhere has looked at what I've done and saw that bike and gone, well, bloody hell, if he can do it, a bit like I did with Doug Wolfke on his thing, he's gone, well, bloody hell, if he can do it on that, you know, and I'm not special, I'm just special needs, not, you know, it's just my bike, and that's what I did. If he can do it, I can do it on my BM or Yam or Triumph or whatever. I can go and do it, and even if it's just a trip to France or Cornwall or whatever, the fact that's, you know, if I've inspired someone to get on a motorbike and ride it somewhere and open their eyes a little bit, then I'll be a very, very happy man.
And
I didn't get shot at.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. It's nice to sort of pass on the torch a little bit, isn't it? And when you have people come up and go, you know, you are the inspiration for me to go and do this, and it's nice because, as you said, we have all those others who were the inspiration for us, and it's nice to feel that you've passed that on in any form. And,
I think so. You know, get on a motorbike and ride somewhere. Next town,
Absolutely.
next country, next county, whatever. Just get on a motorbike and ride somewhere. It's not
I've always said,
you
don't need to go around the world to have an adventure. Just do something out your norm. And if your norm is going to and from the calf, you know, when the sun's out, push it a bit further. Go to another part of the country, or, you know, if you've never been out of Wales, go into England, go to Scotland. Just push it that little bit. You know, go camping overnight or something. Just push it a little bit further and see if you enjoy it or not. Anyway, next one.
Sorry, just to finish off that, I always used to say, people would say, you know, you don't need to go around the world to have an adventure. My answer to that was, no, you just need a shit motorbike.
Very true.
Motorbike, the next town is an adventure.
Yeah, you can have all those issues, can't you? Just go into the calf.
Yeah, done that.
Next one, Lee into the Wild. That's Lee Davies, isn't it? Question for Gareth. Does he still know how much a pint of milk costs?
Oh, bloody hell. Well, I won't. Thank you, Lee. Yes. Sorry I missed you in Bevan's Triumph the other day. Yes, I do. I refuse to buy it in a supermarket because it's crap.
Shall we? This is where the milk connection should come up then. Explain.
Okay, so I've been a milkman all my life. I'm third generation, so my grandfather was a miner in the 20s up the valleys and came to Barry in 28 when the docks became the biggest supplier of coal to the world, beating Cardiff. And set up a milk business. I never met my grandfather. He died before I was born. My father took on the business, and he died when I was quite young. So although it's a family business, I've never worked for the family. By default, I always wanted to go to sea, was my passion. I wanted to be in the Merchant Navy. By default, by travel, movement, always. By default, I ended up in the business because I kind of quite like driving, and a little driving job came up, and I ended up going there, and then you earn a little bit of money, and so I ended up being there for 37 years, running the business with my brother. So very traditional old family milk business. We run the electric milk floats, we do glass bottles.
Brilliant.
I said many years ago, I think it was in Millennium, I was at a big dairy do and said, you know, slowly the world has finally caught up with the milkman in the fact that we've been recycling since glass bottles were invented. We've recycled glass bottles, and we've used electric vehicles before anyone used electric vehicles. So the world's finally caught up with the milkman. I've done that all my life. I do know how much a pint of milk is. I know how much we buy it for, and I know how much we sell it for. But I've retired. I retired a year ago to go off traveling. I realized I came back from the last trip. It's a tough industry. It is a very tough industry to be in. a little easier now because we were the right people in the right place at the right time when COVID hit. We were genuinely, and I wouldn't say this if it was on the misery of someone else, but we were genuinely the right people. We had old folks phoning us up at the start of the first lockdown where they were shielding, saying, is there any chance we can have milk delivered and goods and product? We phoned up. We can't go out the door because we're shielding. And they were genuinely frightened, as many people still are. It was a horrible thing. And they said that we phoned our supermarket where we've had deliveries off them every week for the last 5 years or whatever, and they've given us a 6-week time slot. And so sobbing, literally sobbing on the phone, saying, can we? What do we do? We can't survive for 6 weeks. We can't go out the door. And we would say, yeah, don't worry. What you need will be there tomorrow. Awesome. So we've done, and the guys who I work with they were amazing. Everyone just got it. And they worked their socks off, and it was nice. We haven't always been the good guys because we're pricier than the supermarkets, but we felt like we were valued and that's been a long time since we were particularly valued. And a year on, it's still good. So it was sort of nice to leave it going on the up and on a high. My brother looks a bit tireder than he used to look when I was there because we ran it together. So he's it's a tough old world, but yeah, I'm very proud of what we've done and the fact that we're an independent family business and still going strong and serving a good community. So
absolutely. To keep on that topic for a bit, if we may, like talking shop, do you think people's priorities now with regards to shopping local, do you think that's maybe changed because of COVID? Do you think there's more people out there who will actively try and shop local rather than at the big supermarket? Or do you think people are just going to drift back to supermarkets again for the convenience and cost factor?
I think that you're going to get a percentage I'd like to think not just with shopping, but on a whole is, you've got to look at the positives of COVID. I mean, it's been a horrible year, in particular for travellers. I mean, we've all suffered because of that. Yeah. I think you've got to just look. I'm a big believer is worry about the stuff you can change and don't worry about the stuff you can't. It's just a pointless exercise. So, yeah, I think that's, from our own perspective from work, I pop down to work every week just to let my brother vent because we've been used to venting at each other for many years. So I still keep a sort of hand in it, although I don't actually lift a finger. I keep a hand in it. But
you don't want to do it like that. You want to do it like this.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people. We started going on the up from David Attenborough did us a massive favour when the Blue Planet stuff came on and the glass bottles became prevalent again. Yeah. And we just, suddenly we do glass bottles. We've always done it, and it kind of makes a lot of sense in this particular world. COVID then, obviously, we had a lot of people come over, and I'd like to think we have helped people immensely. We made a difference in the community. We cover pretty much a lot of the Vale of Glamorgan, so our whole county. So I think a lot of people will support us because of what we've done, and also the fear that it may go back to that and actually, we're in the right place. But you're always going to get a percentage of people, and I can't blame them. You've got a family of 2 or 3 kids,
of course,
and you're
the economics of it.
You're going to get it cheaper from the supermarket. I would never ever be upset if someone turned around to me and said, I love having what you do and I love the glass bottles and I'm trying to do my bit, but I just genuinely can't afford it. Of course you're going to go, you've got to do right by your world, and totally. With the best intention. Sometimes that's not, you'd love to do the right thing, but the finances don't allow you to. And that's fine. Of course it's fine. I think, we got to come out of this with a lot of people reassessing what's important in life.
I hope so. Yeah.
I think so. I think a lot. You're always going to get the people who are going to go back to what they did, but we're a couple of mile away from Cardiff Airport, Roos Airport. Just not having the flights out, we're right on the coast, so you get like a smog coming from Newport, Cardiff, Bristol, coming down the channel. That disappeared in it. You kind of looked at stuff around you a little bit more. I've seen more of Wales this year than I originally planned to, and it's a beautiful place to be when it's not raining. So,
1982, I remember that year very well.
That was a year it didn't rain.
Yeah, well, there was the day it didn't rain in 1982.
Yeah. So, so I think, hopefully people will kind of just look at their lives a little bit more and think what's important, and whether the right thing is just head down the right path a little bit after COVID and think a little bit more. Maybe we're lucky as overlanders, so I think we head that path anyway. We tread that path, but
I think we perhaps are a bit more. What's the word? Is introspective the right word? Don't know if that's the right word. We think about things maybe a little bit more or in a different way. I think maybe because of the situations you find yourselves in, and the fact that you found yourself in need of strangers' help and had to rely on strangers' help. That's had a big impact on me personally, anyway, for sure. In that, I think just realizing it's okay to ask for help, and realizing that, I'm a big advocate of paying it forward, now, so that, as you said earlier in this, it made me smile when you said it, and that I'll do a nice thing because I think it's the right thing to do. I don't expect a reward for it. You know what I mean? As you said, promoting a friend's business, or even if you don't know them, a business that you've seen that thinks that's a good service that they've done. I'm totally up for promoting that, whether I get anything back from it or not. You just do the right thing, don't you?
Yeah, if people are good.
Yeah, it'll come back to you eventually.
It's a good thing, It's just let and it is. I'm a big believer in what goes around comes around, and if
100%,
it's a thing which stuck with me on my journey all the time is just be true and honest. I had no idea that my world would change after that journey. I set up a Facebook page, which was really just to keep in touch with friends and family. And that went a bit bonkers, and then got asked to do stuff. And I had none of it was intentional at all. I just took my bike on holiday to a place I'd always wanted to go. That's the bottom line. I love riding my motorbike, and I really wanted to go there and see some stuff I'd not seen before and meet some people I'd not met before. And it's just, just be honest. Just be honest. Yeah. It doesn't have to be an angle. Just live the best life you can live.
Absolutely. I'm into that. Right, next one. What's that?
Red wine's kicking in.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Dreamboat Benji. Proof you don't need a Pan America to take a Harley on adventures. It's very true. Oh, the new Pan America. What are you thinking? The new Harley Pan America.
Hoover. It looks like a 1960s Hoover. But I like old shit. I mean, I know I bought Triumph, but I like old shit. And I think it would probably be quite a good motorbike, because they have to make it good. They Definitely. Have to, because they're branching into something. And again, sort of get the nonsense out of the way. It looks hideous. There's no question. It looks hideous.
I do not like the looks.
No. But I think, in today's world, if they're going to survive, they've got to do that market, and they've probably made quite a good motorbike for it. I mean, weight-wise, weight-wise, it's not going to be that different. I mean, all the big adventure bikes, it's a moot point in it, and we've both trodden our paths. Is there a perfect adventure bike? Of course there isn't. If you like riding, I don't like small bikes. I'd love to like small bikes, but I get on them and they just feel there's no go, and it's too small. I know they would make perfect sense if I was doing, Dakar or Tet or, that kind of thing. It's not the ride I do. I've done many, many miles off-road, but a motorbike intrinsically is quite good at going anywhere. I've proved that. I've done, what I've done on mine. I've done Sani Pass and I've done Namibian Desert and stuff. You've done, obviously your crazy, crazy adventure.
Any bike will go anywhere.
Hmm? Yeah.
Any bike will go anywhere. Yeah,
it's a motorbike. It has, I've got a Unimog now, and I know I'll go places on the bike that I'd never go on the Unimog, even though it's probably one of the world's best sort of off-road vehicles. So motorbikes are quite good at off-road. Know your limitations. But I think with the Harley in particular, they're going to sell shitloads of them to Harley riders who kind of want to buy a motorbike, which maybe, will do a little bit more. I think the proof is, and I'm not a label person. I don't own, other than the motorbike, and there's hardly any badges on that. And I've owned many Harleys, and most of them never had a badge on them. The only reason the Pan's got it is because there's some old stuff on there where it's written on it, and I really don't want to remove it. I don't like labels. I like that motorbike. It's my motorbike, and I like it. I like my Triumph, and I like my BMW. It doesn't have to have a label. If you like it, you like it. And I think the Pan America is going to have a shitload of detractors, but just get on it and ride it. And I think that's the thing, is just ignore everything, ride it if you like,
and ride it and see if it's for you. Yeah. I'm hopefully getting a shorter one quite soon, and I can't wait to try it out. Just see what it's going to be like.
Just don't
genuinely looking forward to it. Yeah,
but get on it and ride it. Don't look at it.
There are plenty of bikes that I've seen the press pictures of and thought, oh, I don't like that. But when I see it in the flesh, I'm like, wow, that does it. I just did the Hayabusa. Didn't like the pictures of that. I've never liked the looks of Hayabusas. Didn't like the pictures of the new one. And when I saw the new one in the flesh, I was like, oh, I like this. This just looks like a big jigsaw. This looks good. Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah.
And the GS is another one. Absolutely hated the looks of GSs. And then somehow, I don't know when it happened, something happened and I went, I like this now. I quite like the look of it.
There's a reason they sell shitloads of them. And some of those sales are because of what it is and the label and etc. But they also sell shitloads because they're bloody good at what they do. I was very kindly given one of the 1200 liquid cools, one of the first liquid cools. I went back out to South Africa, was invited back to do a presentation, and I was given one of those for a couple of weeks. And we went off. It was the first time Maria had done any distance on a motorbike on the back. Yeah. We left. We were just south of Joburg. We were it was at the Horizons meet. Kobis Furiu organises that, sort of asked me back, do a presentation, we'll sort you out on a motorbike, and a load of us went off then. 6 of us went off, Grant and Susan from Horizons, Australian couple, Paul and Jan, Kev Davis, a few of us went off a week after the event, and they said, well, don't, I know you're not bringing a bike, we'll give you this. So removed from what I know. And bloody hell, we did 600 kilometres from Joburg over to Nelspruit in the rain on the motorway. Maria's first time pretty much on the back. It was fantastic. I had open face helmet, as I always run. Yeah. Just, all good. Got to Nelspruit, then we spent a week there just doing ride-outs down, scratching. The only thing I didn't do was take it on the dirt because it wasn't mine, and it just wasn't the right bike to do it on up. But scratching, motorway, beautiful A1, it just worked brilliantly.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
They're just very good at what they do. I like stuff which is a bit different. So the thought of pulling up somewhere, and it's not, it might be vanity, I don't know, but I just like different stuff. So, to pull up on Stelvio and see another 100 of them exactly the same would horrify me. And I like a bit of a challenge, and I didn't set out to do a challenge, but I've realised that's kind of my world. I like people saying exactly as you said earlier, you can't do that. Oh yeah, I can. I like that side of it. But as a motorbike, they're fantastic. And I'm sure we all read the write-ups. As I used to do a bit with sports cars years ago, and you'd read write-ups and stuff. I used to do a bit of instruction on track days and whatnot. And you'd read the write-ups and you go, they've all got so good. You're talking nth degree of
true difference.
99% of people are never going to get to that nth degree. So it's just just by the way.
I get criticism is probably the wrong word. I get a little bit of feedback on some of my reviews, and people go, you always give great reviews, as in, not as in the reviews are great, but as in you say how good the bike is. And they said, can you not do a negative review one time? And my answer to that is, there's not really any shit bikes out there. Do you know, like most bikes now, as you said, it's tiny little details or it'll be a personal thing. Some person might love this of the bike, or the way it handles when it does this, or the fueling, or the throttle response, or, the torque. Some people might love that. Other people, no, that's not what they like from riding. So I always say, all I can give you is how I call it the dangly tickle factor. That's what I talk about. Like, does it tickle my nuts or not? Do you know what I mean?
I'm setting you a challenge then, Bruce. I'll come down when next time you're around this neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Take the pan out for an hour.
Right, you're on. I'd love to. Genuinely, I would love to. Honestly, Gareth, I'd love to do that.
Take the pan out and then do a review on that, just for a laugh, because
right, you're on.
That would be quite funny to someone who's kind of obviously ridden a huge varying degree of stuff. I mean, I've watched your Goldwing reports. I didn't realise you were that old, Bruce, but you're getting there. But
part of me is disgusted at myself that I still literally almost dream about that bike. It grabs hold of you. It is phenomenal.
Yeah.
In a way that I'm just like, I'm sort of confused myself, because I'm like, it's an old man's bike. It is an oil tanker of a bike. That is everything that I think biking shouldn't be. And I absolutely loved it. Loved it. Amazing.
It put a grin on your face. It put a grin on your face. And is that not what motorbikes are for? They make no sense at all, apart from giving you a flipping shit-eating grin. So I can see you on a wingding sooner rather than later.
Not at 32 grand, you can't. Jeez, wow.
Is that
not
a cost?
That's what that one. The Goldwing Tour, brand new, is 32 grand, just under 32 grand for the top.
Yeah, I've never looked, because I've always liked my old stuff. I've never looked at prices of modern bikes, other than I've wanted the Scrambler for a long time before they released it. When they were giving little snippets out, I was kind of keen. And first time I've been in a dealership for a long time properly looking. I'm just seeing, the price of the Rocket 3s, which I love. They're bonkers. When I'm old enough, I'll buy a Rocket 3 if I've got any money left. But, the fact that it is just bonk. I mean, was it Mark Holmes went around the world on a Rocket 3?
Exactly, Yeah,
crazy. So you can do it on anything. Oh,
he'd be another good guest, wouldn't he? He'd be another good guest on here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nice one.
There we are.
I'll have to remember that. No, thanks for that. Dreamboat Benji, he's got another question, actually. Said, did Gareth encounter many issues with a panhead that the latest crop of adventure bikes offer, like traction control for differing terrain, ground clearance, luggage carrying abilities, etc.? So how did you find the pan in terms of all that? I think that's what he's asking. Like, did you think, I could do a traction control. I wish I had more ground clearance. I wish I had more luggage carrying capabilities, all that sort of stuff. Was there anything that raised its head?
Ground clearance was always going to be a problem. I know you put a couple of photos up of me buried in the mud.
They're brilliant.
I mean, that took me hours to get that out, literally. I mean, for anyone who's done sort of red dirt in Africa, that is just like glue. Ground clearance was always going to be an issue. It is what it is. The bike. But it was quite interesting sort of, a year and a half later, doing a lot of the same journey on a Tiger 800 with TKCs on it, TKC 80s. I didn't want for anything. The pan was, I had a couple of small issues. I had an issue early on in the first week. I'd ridden that bike. I've done about 120,000 miles on that bike, and I wouldn't have taken it if I didn't think it could do it. A very quick story. Before I took it to Africa, me and my mate Crow, who I couldn't have done the journey without because he helps me build the bike, is a mechanical genius, rides like a demon, rides a very similar bike. I was going on my own to Morocco destruction testing. So in the April, I was leaving in November. I took the pan to Morocco for a couple of weeks to see if it would cope in the heat, kickstart only, whether I'd cope in the heat, kicking that bike over, whether it run on village fuel, how it would cope. I've done a bit of off-road stuff, but nothing, I wanted to get to Africa to do it. So would it cope? And I was, a couple of weeks before I left, my mate, who doesn't like people particularly, doesn't like the heat, decided that he needed to get out of his comfort zone. He said, "You're not going on your own, I'm coming with you." Well, who better to take with you than the guy who was a mechanical genius with the same motorbike, basically. We took it off-road all across the down to Ouarzazate in Morocco and went out into the desert, did shitloads of stuff, and the thing was brilliant. We purposely ran out of fuel, village fuel, and we were in a overlanders campsite outside Marrakesh in a place called Club Relay. There, where I'd been back in 2009 on a trip coming back from Gambia, so I knew a little bit about the place. Locked up there. It's one of the few places you can get beer, so we were quite happy in our world drinking beer there. I had a little wander around the campsite. There's lots of sort of overlanders there, but mainly in a lot of German and French Land Rovers, Toyotas and whatnot. There was one motorbike there, and it was a British guy on a GS 800. Really nice guy. Said he'd been down to Morocco he was going down for about 6 weeks. And he'd been down for a couple of weeks and was heading home because he'd had so much trouble with fuel. It was just the shit in the fuel was bunging up his filters, and he was on his own and he wanted to do off-road and he couldn't do it because he was worried it was going down to quarter speed, on limp home mode. And he just went, "Oh, it's just horrendous. And, how are you guys struggling?" I said, "Well, I drained my carb twice, which it takes me about 3 seconds. The carb's like a drain pipe anyway, so any shit which goes through it comes out the exhaust, sooner rather than later." And it, we didn't have any issues. And the fact that I came back from that trip and went, "Yes, I can take the pan," it worked. Traction control is that. I'm getting used to traction control on the Triumph, but actually most of the time I use it with everything turned off because that's what I'm used to. Ground clearance is ground clearance, but I did Sarni Pass, and for those who don't know, Sarni Pass is like an off-road version of Stelvio for Europeans. It's quite a famous place. I think Itchy Boots has just done Sarni Pass on a CRF 250 and just went, it's just the hardest thing. So I did it on the pan. I think you put some photos. The photo you put up of me with the BM and the KTM 640 adventure. That's on Sarni. Gotcha. Yeah. So that was on Sarni. That's off-road mecca for most adventure riders in South Africa. I know my limitations. I'm not going to be Dougie Lampkin doing trials riding, but it'll go where it'll go. I mean, I had some challenging days, as I'm sure you did on the Gixxer, but it's still
that's what makes the trip, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for that question. Yes, you don't miss anything.
Next one, the unicorn and the monster. Do you have an Instagram? Well, no, you don't. You need to get on Instagram. Get Maria to get you sorted on Instagram.
Yeah.
You can link your Instagram to your Facebook, but Facebook doesn't post to Instagram, I don't think. I think you have to post on Instagram and it will automatically post to your Facebook. That's the problem.
Okay. I just not very good. I mean, for anyone who's looked on Pan without a plan, I'm not doing anything. So I'm just, excuse me, I'm not very good at social media because I'm kind of old and it's lovely and it's lovely to share. And Facebook was brilliant on the road. I'm solo travel. But I felt that people were urging me on, and you were never lonely because there was a Facebook page, and I never envisaged doing what I did on Facebook. But I'm just not very good because I don't know. I don't chase, and I don't mean this in a derogatory term at all. But I think the fruit adventure in particular made me realise that I'm not chasing sponsorship. I'm not. I just want to live. I just want to do what I want to do. And if people like it, and I'd love to inspire people, I think that's the thing I'd really like to do. So I suppose I should do something if I can inspire people to do stuff. But I don't know. I'm just not very good at it. When I want to do it, it's fantastic. And I'll put stuff up. But sometimes it becomes a kind of chain around your neck where you feel you're obliged.
Yeah. I can totally sympathise with that. I find myself sometimes now thinking, I've not posted anything on Facebook or Instagram in a couple of days, and I'm like, I should post something. But then I just think, I'll just be posting for the sake of it, and I used to do that. I used to just think of something, all right, I'll post this up. And now I just think, do you know what? I'm not going to post anything unless it's worth to it. It's doing something, then I'll post up. But if it's not, I just
I think I should, and I think, I got to do more, and I'm very lucky that I don't need it to try and do what I want to do. Yeah. I mean, obviously you've chosen your path where you're making a living out of it, and I know you work bloody hard at it, and it's not quite. It's not an easy path, and I know it's not an easy path. And as I say, I think the fruit adventure in particular, where it was sponsorship and media driven, and it was brilliant, and I'm very proud of what we did. But it taught me a valuable lesson: is it's not a world I feel I want to try and make money out of, if you see what I mean. I don't want to monetize it, because for me it's just it's the joy of doing what I do. I don't want to taint it. And I don't mean that, it works for some people. For me, when I've got something to say, and when if I go off on the pan, I'm hoping to go off on the pan this year somewhere, then I'll do stuff. But I'm not just going to put stuff up because I've gone down to the beach today on the bike. I have done that a couple of times just to get, people went, you're still alive, well, sorry, I'm not your bitch.
No, I totally get you. I get you. Totally
I'd love to share stuff, and if people are interested, I'm more than happy, as you well know, I'm more than happy to chat about it. I'll do presentations, I'll do stuff, but I'm not very proactive. I'm really sorry for anyone who wants more out of me, but I am not proactive. There will be a time maybe when I've got something better to say, but obviously this year has been, I feel sorry for, people who are trying to make a living out of the overland world. I mean, yourself, Alex, we've talked about, Kevin and Julie at Globebusters, and, anyone who's trying to make a living out of movement, Kathy and Spencer, it's just, it's what can you talk about?
But it's also amazing on, like, when your income relies on trips, on tours, on speaking at events, on all this sort of stuff. When that is your income, the basis of your income, when that all stops, it is a proper oh shit moment, and it's not just overland travellers that are in this boat. There's millions of people out there in the world that are facing this right as we speak, but I found it quite heartening on how you can resolve and you can figure a way through, and you can tighten your belt, and I'm lucky that I can still cover my mortgage, and I can still keep a roof over my head and keep the power on and keep, obviously keep fed. But do you know what I mean? But it's like, okay, we've survived that, we've got through. So you've got to take what you can from it, can't you?
Yeah, I think that's the one thing travel teaches you is you kind of need to be quite adaptable to a situation. I always think of the long way round, long way down scenario where, there's probably an evenish split of, it's all right for them because they're who they are and their budget, and then the other people who love it and it's transformed their world. And you just say, I always think with overlanding in particular, it's just, a lot of the time you're just trying to find the best solution to a situation you've been put in.
Absolutely.
You're traveling around the world or, in Europe or whatever, something happens and you need to find a solution. I mean, I've run a business for many years. Problem solving. You need a solution. And with Charlie and you, and they just had better solutions than most of us, and good luck to them. But I think, with the COVID situation, by the nature, I mean, you look at what Nathan Millwood has done, of how he's adapted into an environment, we've been put in. I'm fortunate. I mean, I sold my house to be able to retire, so I'm lucky Maria hasn't thrown me out yet. So I don't need. I probably should do something and to make a little bit of money at some stage, but I'm okay at the moment. I'm not complaining. And I figured I'm not going to live forever. So, the little bit of pension I have got will pay a little bit. And, maybe when I'm 80 and I'm really ill, I'm going to be in a home and, I think, shit, I should have saved some of that and gone in a better home. But, I'm a bit older than you guys. But I think, adapting to this current sort of life that we have to live, I think we're probably better equipped, maybe, than people who've only ever done a 9 to 5 and don't have to think outside the box. By the nature of what we've done.
Yeah, self-employed people have probably adapted better. I would have thought. They've adapted better to those who perhaps just work the corporate 9 to 5. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I've never been in a job like that. I was always. I suppose I was very fortunate in the old Bill in that, although it's a fairly unique job and it's shift work, you're guaranteed, the wheel would properly have to come off for there not to be a paycheck in that bank every month. Do you know what I mean? And obviously to step from that security to the self-employed world, and then it's been a massive eye opener. But everyone, every self-employed person is going to be in the same boat, and everyone that wakes up to find out that the job they thought they had has gone. Everyone's in the same boat, aren't they? And as you said, I think it's got to adapt. Oh God!
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky, from a business point of view that we were the right people at this time. But as I say, you look at people in the travel industry or the hospitality industry, flipping heck. The fact that they've adapted, but then been knocked on the head. Had the rug kicked out from them. Adapt again, do it again. I feel for that. I say I'm sort of fortunate that we've done okay, really, but it's a tough one. But just to ask you a question, Bruce, obviously what are you now, a year or so into this?
Just over a year and a couple of months. Happier in yourself? I mean, maybe not financially, but so there's different stress. Money is an ever-present worry and an ever-present stress that perhaps it wasn't to the same degree before. But in myself, I am much happier now than I was before. I'm freer than I've ever been. I properly feel sort of in charge of what I'm going to do now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it'll be over.
Absolutely.
If this all ends, the whole doing YouTube and everything, if that all ends as it'll never end completely, but if it ends as a full-time occupation, it will be my choice to do it. It'll be at that stage where I go, okay, I need to get a proper job now to make ends meet. So, but we're not at that stage, thankfully, at the moment.
Fantastic.
And I'm hoping that now we've got through the whole COVID, it can only improve now. There's already companies are starting to inquire about doing some sponsored videos, some sponsored work, doing a little bit of work together. So that can only help progress my own business, and we'll see what happens. We'll see. And my tours will come back.
You've built a good base to it, though, haven't you?
Definitely.
I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as I say, I know we've spoke before about it. It's very easy from people on the outside going, well, that looks fun. That's easy, and I know full well that you do work. You work. It's a challenging thing, as I say, and insecurities and etc. I mean, the shackles. For me, I always felt I've loved doing what I've done. I'm very proud of the business. But the day I walked away, and also the day I sold my house, it's just I was fortunate that I'm not homeless yet. We get on quite well. But she keeps me drunk most of the time, or she's drunk. But just releasing some shackles is. Sometimes it's not all about the money side and the sometimes you got to think for yourself and just go, my head will be in a lot better place by just doing something different.
Yeah, I think if you're the type of person to go it alone, if you're the type of person to go and make a business of whatever it is that you do, if you're going to be self-employed, I would think that if you survive, certainly that first year, you have that mentality that, okay, I'll adapt, I'll improvise, I'll overcome. And if I have to if I have to diversify and do something else or something on the side to make the shortage up, then you do it, don't you? It's just, you've got to, you will make it happen. If it's an overland trip, I would say 99% of the people out there who dream of doing this trip won't do it. And the reason they won't do it is because they give up. They don't see it through.
Yeah, they don't commit.
Exactly. I think everyone's capable of getting to the start line if you push yourself. And then it's just a matter of go through the start line and go. And then I think once those of us that have done it realize you're just riding a bike. And as you said, you're just problem solving. It's all you're doing every day. It's just dealing with whatever comes up. That's all it is.
I felt quite guilty because I'd done a lot of travel before, but all Europe based, and I just had this thing that it was just going to be hard, and I had a riot. I had a riot, and I had very little hassle. I still can't believe I was away for 6 months. Pretty much every day. I had a beer pretty much every day, and I had a full English breakfast pretty much every day. Weirdly, that it's really popular in Southern Africa, and it's really easy to get. And I just went, some of the borders are more challenging, but once you've done a couple, they're all the same. It's just dealing with that particular day. But actually, it was not. And I don't want to demean it because it was a great adventure, but it didn't. It is just get on your bike in the morning and ride it. And there's nothing better in the world to do. I miss that freedom.
I do miss that freedom.
That was why I can't wait. I can't wait to, it'd be interesting to compare it with life in a truck. That's going to have a lot different challenges. And I know I'm going to miss the motorbike side of it because, I've not been without a bike for a long, long time. Might put a bike on the back, but that's another whole different chapter. But yeah, the freedom of just getting up in the morning and going full English, great, and riding a bike and then having a beer at the end of it. I can't think of a better way to live, frankly.
Beautiful, sounds perfect to me. What do I say? How are you for time, mate? Are you okay for time?
I'm good. Yeah,
we're 2 hours into this.
2 hours.
Right, whilst we have a quick natural break, folks, another big shout out to the rest of our sponsors who are the Influencer Store. The But yeah, the Influencer Store helps you build your brand, big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design, and there are no hidden costs. For more info, come and check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. Now, the Influencer Store handle all my merch for TeapotOne, so if you head to my website, TeapotOne.com, head to the shop, everything there is handled by the Influencer Store. Make sure you check them out and tell them you came from Brewtime. Lastly, a massive shout out to Innov. Now, Innov sponsored the main TeapotOne YouTube channel as well as the podcast. They are synonymous with motorcycle dash cams. They're pretty much the industry leaders now. They do everything from the single C5 system right through to the modern 4K dual camera K series. The K5 is their flagship 4K model. They've got the K2 and the K3. The K3 has the remote and external mic, which the K5 has, but it's only a 1080 resolution system. For me, it's got to be the K5 all day long, but head to innov.co.uk, that's innov.co.uk/TP1, and check out their product range there to see which one best fits you. If you've got any questions at all, either drop Innov a line or drop me a line, info@TeapotOne, or through any of my social media, and I'll do my best to answer. If you ever get involved in any kind of accident, folks, the first thing they'll ask is there any CCTV? And if you've got one of these systems fitted to your bike, then you can answer yes. It's an absolute lifesaver when there's any contention around who's responsible for any kind of accident. If it's there and it's covered by these cameras, which it undoubtedly will be if it's forward and rear, happy days, you've got it all there. So head to innov.co.uk. A huge thank you to all of the podcast sponsors. You really are helping to make this happen, and all of you over on Patreon who also help to support the podcast. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, folks, drop me a line, info@teapotone.com, or through any of the social media, and I'll take it from there. Right, let's crack on with the rest of episode 55 with Gareth Jones. Right,
Maria just said, eat a slice of pizza and stop swearing. So, yeah,
I always get from my missus, like she'll just send text going, "Stop shouting." She's downstairs and she can still hear me.
Oh, I did. I don't know if you heard I did an interview with Adventure Rider Radio a couple of weeks back.
Right, I didn't hear it.
Oh, I'm really pleased with it, actually. It was, you listen back to some stuff, or I've seen videos of presentations, and you kind of go, oh, not, should I have said that? Should have. Much the same as yourself. I thought it edited down to an hour. We did about 2 hours chatting, and Jim Martin, I don't know if you had anything to do with him at all. He's a lovely guy, Canadian guy. Yeah, he's really, really nice guy. Good interviewer as well. And but we were setting it up, and he said it's the first time. Maria obviously is doing it. We bought the microphone, did that, and in the end, I had the microphone on my lapel, and he's doing all the sounds and stuff, and he's going, no, we were just audio, no video, and it ended up. He said we've never had an interview before where we put the microphone across the room, literally across the room. I was sitting in this chair. I had to get out the chair because I move a lot because I'm, So, and he said, "You're in a leather chair, aren't you? It's squeaking all the time." Oh, no. So in the end, I'm sitting on the floor with a microphone across the room. Oh, it was hilarious. So yeah, I get a bit shouty, as you well know.
Get a bit shouty. Right, we better crack on with these questions, man. There's still loads to go. Next one, the Spectre 223. If someone offered the money to cover costs right now, would you drop everything and do it again?
Yep. Without a doubt.
It's a dark question.
Without a doubt.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
So go on.
Yeah, no, I mean, the last time I left South Africa in 2018, I think, the last time I was there, and I've been itching to go back ever since. It just drags you in all the time. So yeah, I'd go like a shot, and I'm free to do it now. Whereas before it was always work or commitments or mortgage and everything. Now, if someone said go, I'd be gone straight away, like a shot.
Watch this space. Watch this space.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yourself?
I used to say no, because I've done it. You know, it was a dream. I lived it. I did it, and time to move on. But I don't know. I think maybe because of COVID and having the whole lockdown, I've got proper wanderlust. I've got proper wanderlust again, and I don't know. I just feel like I need something. I need something to focus on, some challenge again. Maybe that might be why the whole Atlantic Grow thing cropped up on my horizon, because I was like, oh, that's another thing to focus on, another challenge. But then, part of me thinks, I just need to grow up and I need to focus on getting the house sorted and, getting the garden sorted and build the business.
One of the things for me is I definitely have lost momentum. Definitely with the COVID. I mean, I'd been planning to retire for 3 years. I gave my brother 3 years notice that I was going to leave. Sold the house. Everything was set for us to go in the MOG. But I mean, Maria's lucky with her work, so given her a year's sabbatical with an option at the end to leave if needs be, depending on where life takes us. So we were all set for that. And obviously all that got put on hold. And it's just... the momentum is, I'm still itching to go, and I know it will only take, 100 or so miles of on the road, and then I'll be like, yeah, we're good, we're doing what we should be doing. But I definitely have lost some momentum with it all, which is sort of a little bit worrying. But Maria's going to be working certainly for the rest of this year. So, we've already said, look, I've retired. I'm ready to go. My idea was at some stage I'll head off to Europe for a couple of months and on the bike, because I can still do bike stuff without her, because there's only one seat. And then, the MOG will be there when we get back. So, I'm hoping at some stage I'm going to be back on the road at some stage soon, whether more than likely on the Pan, possibly on the Triumph, just because I'm loving it. But who knows?
I think Scotland. I think everyone's going to Scotland. Everyone is going to Scotland by the sounds of it. Everyone's going.
I've only crossed the border once. I always went south. I never ever went north. So I only crossed the border years ago. Yeah, back in the 80s, I used to chase the Lombard Rally, as was in those days, the World Rally Championship. And we crossed over into Scotland back in early 80s, something like that. And it's the only time I've ever been. And I just keep going, I've got to get there at some stage. But I only ever had 2 weeks off at a time. And I just, I'm going to France or Spain or Portugal or Switzerland, whatever. Because it's different, and much as Scotland's lovely, I'm sure, it's still UK, and I always headed south because I didn't have weekends or the odd week. It was only a fortnight, a couple of times a year, so I'd always head off south. So
do it, man. Do it. It's a beautiful place. I'm biased because obviously I'm from the best country in the world, but it is stunning. I go back and I'm just like, oh God, I forgot how beautiful. Wales is gorgeous. Wales is beautiful. But then Scotland's just that extra bit bigger. When you see the scenery, it's just bigger. Yeah. But then you go places like Canada. You're out in British Columbia and you're just like, oh my God, this is Scotland on steroids. Look at it. Yeah. It's phenomenal.
Well, I used to do a bit of skiing. I did skiing up in Finland, and same thing. I keep thinking, I'd love to see the wide open spaces of Canada. And then you go, but we got the same up in Scandinavia, which I know you're heading to sooner rather than later. But
I can't wait.
And you think, well, that's kind of easier. So, I
still think Norway is probably one of the most stunningly beautiful countries on the planet. Just the rugged, pure, like power of nature that you see there with the fjords and when you look at the place and you think how that was formed, you're just like, this is staggering. And places like the Grand Canyon, when you go and see that in person, in the States, it blows your mind to think how that was created.
I was genuinely emotional. I wasn't on the bike. I was on a road trip out there, but not. I was genuinely emotional when I saw the. And Maria will say I've got a heart of stone. I am just. I might as well stay in my fridge in work most of the time. But I was genuinely emotional when I saw the Grand Canyon.
It's weird, isn't it?
And just overwhelmed. Same as Fish River Canyon in Namibia is just same thing. Just nature. Just sometimes you just words just aren't enough, are they?
Yeah. Pictures don't do it justice, do they? Like you see. For me, I'd seen the Grand Canyon on the TV and in pictures, and you think, wow, that looks amazing. That looks beautiful. I need to go and see that. Yeah. Then you get there and see it in the flesh, and for me, it was just it was even more awe-inspiring to see it in the flesh than normally when you see something in a picture. It's been tweaked, doesn't it? It's been photoshopped here and there, and the lighting's done. You think, oh, that's beautiful. It's never going to look like that in the flesh. And then you get there and see it and go, oh, wow.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I think that one of the sort of sad things with today's world is, and I purposely don't research much of any country before I go. Get the basics, but don't research much because I don't want to see it on a computer screen before I go. Yeah. I want to see it firsthand. And I think, you look at someone like Ted Simon and Elspeth Beard and stuff, just, the fact that there wasn't the knowledge, we can Google Earth anything today.
Absolutely.
And the magic, it's still there. Of course it's still there, but just to see stuff I knew nothing about Fish River Canyon the first time I went there. And, sorry, I've got to let the cat go a minute. Oh, she's on the move. Come on. She's still alive. Just to see that the first time, much the same as Grand Canyon. I mean, I think it's the second biggest canyon in the world. And I knew nothing about it, just rocked up there, knew I kind of needed to go there, but I didn't look at anything before I went. And I kind of purposely don't, probably because I'm just lazy and rubbish on a computer, that I don't look at anything before I get there. And you have got that fear of missing out is the saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fear of missing out.
It is a horrible feeling on social media when you've like done a country or you've been to a place and then you post up pictures of it when you're in the next place. You've moved on. Yeah. And someone goes, oh, did you go to such and such and see it? And you're like, no, didn't know anything about that. And you see the pictures and you're like, shit, that looks amazing.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Or someone said, oh, you should come and stay. And they live in in the best bar in the world or something.
Yeah.
You just think, oh, shit.
But I think I've missed it.
Yeah, but I always had this thing. On my journey, I was heading to Zanzibar. I'd read about Zanzibar since I was about 6 years old, and I have no knowledge of Zanzibar or very little. But I just thought it was a cool place to head to. Basically, I know it's beautiful, and I know where it is, and I just thought actually that's that's where I'm going to aim for. Otherwise, I'll just stay in a pub somewhere. So I'm going to aim there. I never got there. I got within about 3 days of it, and I never got there. And but I always said if I can't get to somewhere, it's because I'm having fun somewhere else. If I don't make it, I don't make it, and there'll be a reason. And I realised if I'd have gone up there, it cost me a fortune. It'd have been a month of time, which I didn't really have. And if I'd have got there, I couldn't have got to other places. Yeah. And so I got into Tanzania and just went, actually, I probably need to turn back. Otherwise, I'm going to miss Zimbabwe and Mozambique and the Garden route and stuff like that, Lesotho. And then it's on the list for the next time, isn't it?
I was just going to say, yeah. Sounds like that's a good enough reason if ever there was one for a round two.
Yes. Oh, there'll always be a round two. There has to be.
Right, next one. Robert Newman, 27. Hello, Gareth and Bruce. Hello, Robert. Hope you're both having a great day. Yes, thank you. Question for both. You're out on an adventure and you won't see another human for the next 7 days. You don't have any food, but your bike is edible. So you don't starve to death. Which parts of the bike do you eat over the next 7 days? Leaving the more important parts so the bike will get you to civilization. That's an interesting question. So what do you eat on a bike?
Well, having read about Scott of the Antarctic and Shackleton and heroes of mine, is they ate their belts.
Yeah.
Because it's leather. They ran out of food, so they'd eat their shoes or the belts and the harnesses for the dogs and stuff, which was all made of leather. And my motorcycle seat is a leather seat. So I'd probably have to eat the seat, although it's had my arse on it for quite some time, so it's probably not going to be sweaty arse on it.
Yeah, but the whole bike is edible. You can eat the whole bike. It's all edible. So I think the thing is, what things do you regard as not crucial to your journey that's on the bike?
Have you not seen my motorbike? There is nothing on that motorbike.
I'm looking at a picture of it now.
Doesn't make it work. There is absolutely that was one of the things which I was precious about.
Headlight
angle grinder. Yeah, headlights, spotlights, number plates. I hate number plates.
Yeah, me too.
That could go.
Exhaust.
But yeah, my bike is as minimal as it can possibly be. So the only things on it, and that's if you see any of the photos, so when it's in travel mode, so the photos which are put up where it's in travel mode, that can be reverted back to a motorbike with nothing on it in about 5 minutes. So all the luggage comes off with 2 Allen screws. It's on a cantilever on the rear axle, and then it's 2 Allen screws under the front seat, and the whole of the back luggage comes off. I ran it for years with no mudguards. So,
in Wales.
So I remember being... I remember being in the Pyrenees. I'd gone on a trip on my own, and I was riding around the Pyrenees, and it was chucking it down. It was much the same as the weather is now. And I was up on Col de Tourmalet, and I rocked up, and I got no mudguards. I got a little bit of luggage on, but not much. So the water's coming off the back wheel over my head and into my face. Water's coming off the front wheel into my face. And I rocked up there, and there was a bunch of about 6 1200 GSAs from Slovenia or Bosnia or something, and we went into they were in the cafe. I walked in, and I am just soaking wet, absolutely soaking wet. I wear an open face helmet, so I can't see. My face is covered in mud, and the guys went, "Oh, cool bike, mate," and I just went, "Flipping heck, I'm in my 40s." I'd have swapped any of them their bikes that day. It was just, I've been in the rain all day and just going, yeah, it may be cool, but I am just an idiot. I'm 40 years old, 40 plus years old. For Christ's sake, get some mudguards and even a proper helmet. For Christ's sake, this is ridiculous. What are you trying to prove? It did look cool, but it was ridiculous. So yeah, even if you look at the Pan on that trip, there's still very little back mudguard. The rack took some of it. So yeah, there's not a lot to eat on my motorbike, which doesn't make it work. The engine
there isn't. Yeah. I'm looking at a picture of it as you talk. Yeah, there isn't much on that, is there? Good question. Good question.
Yeah, if you look at it with no luggage or any of the stuff on it, it's it's a Volvo in the true sense of the word. Before, now it's a fashionable thing, but I've been riding that for 20 years like that. So, when I was riding wide handlebars, all my mates were running ape-hangers. So, it was fairly unique. Not unique because it's been done since the 40s, but there's not a lot to eat. But the saddle would be tasty.
Not after your arse has been on it for 6 months in Africa. It'll be seasoned. Yeah. Last one of my Insta ones. Dave Gilligan, 1981. On that seat, holy moly, his arse must have been like a Japanese flag. Not so much a question, just a statement. Cheers, Dave. Right.
Okay,
over to Facebook.
I'll run with that question because it's a question which gets asked a lot. Is there's very little padding on that seat. Obviously, it's a rigid motorbike, but it's the one thing I missed when I did London to Cape Town on a Tiger. Is That seat is the best, most comfortable seat in the world. The Tiger was nowhere near as comfortable.
Seriously, because the Triumphs are really comfortable.
Yeah, that seat is... I remember reading years ago, it's the one thing the American police missed when they went from Harleys over to Kawasaki's mainly, I think, in the days, Ed Vows and whatnot, is they said, we missed the tractor seat. The tractor seat is just a really comfortable thing. I'm not an idiot. Honestly, I'm not an idiot. I wouldn't have ridden it. I couldn't have done. I think the longest day I did was about 650 kilometers. Longest day I've ridden on the bike, I rode from not far from Geneva in Switzerland, all on B roads again, down to halfway down to Dubrovnik. That was about 14 hours in the saddle, other than filling up the fuel. And the one thing I never get is uncomfortable, ever. I can ache. I mean, 100 miles on the Harley is like doing 500 miles on a normal motorbike. But I never get uncomfortable. I mean, I built it for me, but that seat is tremendous. It is absolutely the best. And in fact, I look at my BM, even the Triumph, and I think, how could I graft a tractor seat on it without looking like an idiot? Because it is brilliant. So comfortable. So watch this space.
I'd love to try one, yeah. Right, I've moved across to Facebook. So it's TeapotOne on Facebook, and there are loads. There's loads of questions here, mate. So I know you've got a couple people posted on your own page as well. Yeah. So I think what we'll try and do is we'll just go quick fire answers on some of these questions just to get through them, shall we? Because we're already 2.5 hours in. Yeah. First one.
I've seen some of the posts from Yoko and Lee.
I was just going to say, first one up is Yoka. I've always called him Jock.
Yeah. Well, you're Scottish, so yeah. Yoka.
Sorry, Yoka. You must look at me and go, you never pronounce my name correctly. I'm sorry. I will. I think you're
probably used to it.
Yeah. First one, Yoka selling. You'll run into two problems: enough storage space on discs and micro SD cards, and trying to cut it down to less than 6 hours. Looking forward to this episode. Well, we're 2.5 hours into it already, Yoka. Spencer Lee, is this going to be your first box set, Bruce? Old Jonesy boy knows how to chat. There's a theme here.
Yeah. Well, Lee's Welsh as well, so he'll know that one.
Absolutely. He's moving soon, isn't he? He's going to Canada.
He's off to Canada, yeah. He's leaving our green and pleasant land.
He's good lad, Lee. Good lad.
Oh, yeah. Demon rider.
Oh, mate, I know. Phenomenal, isn't it? He's one of these people that makes it look absolutely effortless. Wheeling and drifting, and you're just like, oh, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Anyway, next one. Wayne Kinsey. Who's his favourite, Gavin or Stacey?
Well, for those who know Maria, it has to be Nesta.
Can't believe you're saying that.
She'll kill me.
Maria's beautiful. She's lovely.
She has, her best mate lives in Bristol. Who she has 2 young daughters, and they think she was Nessa before we got the Mog. So the fact that now we got a 7.5 ton truck. I mean, Gavin and Stacey has done our town the world of good. It's put us on the map. I'm still gutted that I've not got one of my milk floats in it. I was offering my God bonus to get in. We've been on Doctor Who. We've been on quite a few different things. Torchwood, Welsh version of Casualty. They use milk floats as scene setters because they assume you're in the morning. Not always the case, but they assume. But we've never got on Gavin and Stacey. Lots of my mates who run businesses in town have. But it's done it for world of good. So I love Gavin and Stacey, and long may it continue. Vanessa.
Next one. Vanessa, yeah. Ian Scouse Scott. I met this guy whilst I was in Malawi at Cool Runnings Hostel. I wish I'd had more time to chat, as he'd stayed a couple of days. Looking forward to this one. Cool. Nice one.
They were. I ran up. Again, most of my journey was kind of word of mouth. I didn't have a particular plan. I had a vague idea where I was going. I would rock up somewhere, and someone at that place would say, "You need to go here." So I was in Mafui in Zambia, South Luangwa National Park. And I was in a campsite there, and someone said, "Oh, where you headed?" I said, "Malawi." They said, "You've got to go to Cool Runnings." So I'd just done 21 days camping. And I was kind of quite keen to go into a room. So I'd headed off, my visa ran out in Zambia, headed to Chap, which is on the border. I managed to get a room there, but it was election time and it was a bit manic and didn't sleep too well. And I thought, right, I'll head to Malawi, head to Cool Runnings. I think it's a place you and Charlie stayed. I don't think it's on the film, but they did stay there. Beautiful place, run by an ex-Zim girl. Absolutely fantastic place. Locked up there on the Harley, thinking I need a room. I've done 21 days in a tent. So I kind of would like a room. And I turned up. There's no one there. It's a beautiful place, right on the lake, on the southern part of the lake. Locked up there, and no one there. And they went, "Oh, I'm sorry, all the rooms are taken." I went, "There's no one here." They said, "No, the British Army booked the lot." And I went, "What? They're not here. They're out on manoeuvres. They were training up the Malawian Defence Force."
Right.
I said, "Hang on a minute. They're the army. I pay my bloody taxes. They can go in a bloody tent. I want a room." But no, it was pre-booked. But they were Scots Guards, strangely enough. So they had a little. There was I don't know. There must have been about 20 of them out there, and I ended up staying. I rock up everywhere and think I'm only going to stay a night or two, but I wasn't on a time scale or anything. And I ended up staying. I turned up there on the Monday, ended up drinking with these guys, and they were fab. They were so entertaining. They were lovely, lovely people, and it was a fantastic place. And it was Six Nations. And I got there on the Monday, and Wales, Scotland were playing on the following Saturday. And they said, "Well, you've got to stay for the match." And
you left in March.
Yes. Well, we ended up staying. I ended up staying the week, and they'd go off on manoeuvres every day, and they'd wake me up every morning. I'm in my tent. All their Land Rovers and Toyotas are parked up next to my tent. They'd get up at 5 a.m. and go off on training stuff. But in the night, they'd come back and they'd drink like fishes. I mean, there's probably, they were fab. They were fantastic people, lovely guys. And it was great to just meet some Brits. I didn't see anyone on the road, hardly at all. No overlanders at all on the whole 6 months, hardly.
Wow.
And I was in the rainy season, so everyone was much more sensible than I was. But unfortunately, by the time the match came, the night before, I think the Americans were there as well, and they'd had a night where the Americans came over as well for a night out with them, and we got absolutely shit-faced. I remember there was about four of us.
Finest tradition of the military.
There was one guy, and I'm sure Scouts would remember. One of the guys was Fijian or something like that, and there was a couple of us drinking, and they just drank by colours, which frightened the life out of me. It was the first time I drank gin and tonic with them. I've never drunk gin and tonic. I was 49 years old, and I never drunk gin and tonic, and they got me onto gin and tonic. And then they gave me these coloured drinks, and we got absolutely smashed to pieces. And the match was the next day. And by the time the match was on, we were all so hungover. It was a horrible match. It was full of fouls, and Wales beat them. And I cannot believe that they didn't just blow my bike up in the middle of the night because we won the rugby. But they were a fab bunch. So yeah, great to hear a question from you, Scouts. Awesome. I remember that week particularly as being the biggest hangover I had of the whole journey. A fantastic time. Cool Runnings was a super cool place. And it was weird because I went off then up to Tanzania, and I went up there, spent a couple of weeks up there, came back and stayed in Cool Runnings on the way back. And there was about 4 of them left. All the rest had either shipped out to go home, but I think the 4 were left, or 6 were left, were going off to Mozambique to do some more training down there. But they did some sort of... and Scouts will remember this. They did, what's the mud running thing people do? Mud.
Is it mud runner? No, mud.
Yeah, mud, whatever. Hard
I forgot what it's called.
Running thing.
Yeah, the assault course thing.
They went and did that.
Tough mudder.
Tough Mudder. Yeah, we went and did a Tough Mudder, and I remember going and watching that, and just an amazing time with those guys. So Scouse, nice, brilliant to hear from you, mate. I still remember the hangover very, very well. So
awesome.
Hope all is well.
Next one, Ian Pickup. Out of all the bikes to choose from, why the Harley? And also, what made you decide that was the trip to do with it?
Easy question, because I get asked that a lot.
Yep.
I've had a love of Africa since I was a young boy. So I when doors were shutting, I was kind of thinking I'm not going to be able to do this trip, and it was I had to do it then. There may not be another opportunity. And so doors were shutting, and I thought, well, the next progression probably is South America. And much as it looks wonderful, and I'm kind of coming round to South America a lot more, partly through Spencer and Kathy, actually. Maybe I should go there. But I just wanted to do Africa. I think if you've got it in your head, there is no substitute. It's not the last great adventure. There's many places you can have adventure, but for me, I wanted to see Africa. I'd read about it. It just was drawing me. And the bike, it's the bike I've wanted since I was 14. So I've done a lot of miles on it. I've done a lot of miles on other bikes, so choppers and all sort of Harleys. So it was no question of taking anything else unless the bike wasn't capable. When I did the destruction test in Morocco, I realised it was capable. And it wasn't because social media wasn't on the thing. I wasn't trying to prove a point. There was absolutely nothing other in it than I love that motorbike. And I love Africa, and putting those two together was just my dream come true. Simple as that.
Love it. Beautiful. Next one. This is the last one on Facebook. There were loads of questions. Loads of posts that were just, this is amazing. Can't wait for it. All this sort of stuff. Yeah. So the last question on my Facebook is Simon Broom. This is a good one. I've just read it. Your friend has invented a time machine, but it can only go back in time, and you can use it only once. You can go back in one time in your life to change something that happened or not, whichever. Which is it and when? So you can either go back and change something or not. What would it be?
I read it and I racked my brain. It is a brilliant question. And I racked my brain and I just went, I'm not very good. I live in here and now. I'm not very good, even though I ride classic bikes. I kind of don't. I don't hanker for a time gone by. I live today's where I can live at, and a bit like I was saying earlier, it's worry about the stuff you can change, not the stuff you can't. And I read that, and I went, "That's one of the best questions I've ever read," and I just thought that's really interesting. But I don't think, we've all made. Maybe I lived a fairly wild life between my teens and 30s, and I kind of think maybe I should have travelled more, but I chose a different path, which I'm not going to go into. And I kind of, that's sort of, it's not a regret because it shaped me into the person I am, but I there isn't anything I would change because I'm who I am because of what I've done. I'd love to have travelled at 18 and done Africa. For my 18th birthday, I was going to do, again, it was pre-internet, so I'd sent away from a newspaper cutting to a company who were driving Bedford's trucks, army trucks from Nairobi down to Malawi or something, and it was a 6-week trip, and I thought I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do. And at the time, I ended up playing in a band. And for my 18th birthday, I got another guitar and an amp or something like that. So that was the choice I made, and I didn't go traveling. And I kind of regretted that for a long time. But then, having now done it and seen some sort of Dragoman and overland truck scenes with youngsters in them, I would never have appreciated what I was doing. I'd have just been fun.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, exactly.
No, I wouldn't go back and change a thing because where I've got from has got me to where I am now.
And it's made you the person you are. Yeah, that's my sort of feelings. I've had this question before. Was that? What was that?
Right or wrong, it's got me to where I am.
Yeah, I mean,
I've made stupid decisions. I have, no question.
I think everyone has, though, in their past, and things happen in relationships and in jobs and just in life, don't they? The way you make a decision either way, whether that's right or wrong or whatever. But like now, I couldn't be happier. I have an amazing wife. I've got a cracking son. I'm living the dream as far as what I do for a living is concerned. And I'd never change that. And everything that's happened in the past has caused me to be the person I am that's made the decisions to arrive where I am now. So, I wouldn't, I wouldn't want to change that.
I remember giving someone the wrong change once when I was on a milk van, and that troubled me, but I did go back and give them the right change a couple of weeks later. So some things you kind of need to do.
It's like karma, isn't it? It's karma. It's karma.
Yeah, I wouldn't change it. Yeah, I've been very, very lucky that the paths I've taken haven't always been right by any stretch of the imagination. But I've got great friends. I've had amazing people in my life. I've managed to do a lot of things, not without considerable sacrifice at times. I mean, it's not been an easy path sometimes. So, none of us have easy paths at times. We all have darker times. But yeah, no, I love the question, and I racked my brains. I saw that one come up a couple of days ago, and I racked my brains and thought, I want a really clever answer to that. And I thought for a long time about it, more than any other, especially some of the ones from my mates have put up. I'm
reading some of them now as we speak.
and so I thought about that a lot, and I just thought I don't have a clever answer. I can only say, no, move forward, don't look back.
Right, okay. Well, here's one from one of your mates, I'm assuming. Jonathan Lane. Quick question. Have you ever driven a fast car down the Roos bypass at high speed? What's the story to that then?
Well, Jonathan Lane
no comment.
one of my he's a lovely guy from my town who is an inspirational guy, and we were talking about inspirational people before. John Lane was one of the first people in our town to have a choppery kind of bike back. He's 10 years older than I am. So what am I, 56? He's 66 now. And John has an eye for aesthetics. So he taught me a lot about building stuff when I was building choppers and bikes, and just a lovely, lovely, lovely man. John ended up buying, he was always into motorbikes and custom cars. John ended up buying, I'll try and keep this as brief as I can. Hi, John, in Michigan. He moved from Michigan. He bought a 1932 Ford Coupe hot rod, which was built by no other than Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck is renowned as being one of Britain's best guitarists, but he also builds amazing hot rods.
So John, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, no. There's a Google Jeff Beck and look at he did an hour's program on telly about his hot rods and his life, and his hot rods are as good as his guitaring. It's just phenomenal. And he went out with Julia Carling, Will Carling's wife, rugby player, and he didn't sell any, but he built it for Julia. I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, built it for Julia Carling when he used to go out with her before she married Will Carling. And she sold it.
I thought it was before, after.
No. Anyway, so John has always been into cars, amazing bikes. He built an amazing BSA, has ridden bikes all his life, ridden Harleys. We bought our Harleys the same time together in 87, pretty much. But he's always been into his car. So he was running 350 Chevy motor 32 coupe. He also now has a Model T, which is just bonkers. Anyway, he's now, he worked for Dow Corning and he moved to Michigan because he was living the American dream anyway, so he might as well move. I used to be into quite high end sports cars. So I took John out in a German sports car with the engine in the boot, which was fairly tasty. And so the Roost Bypass Road is a road a lot of us use just to try stuff out. And
hooligan.
I'm glad you're not in the profession you used to be in, Bruce.
I wouldn't have cared. I genuinely wouldn't have cared.
I know the reasons, but I used to drive this thing. I'm not a speed demon at all, but this thing was just so good at going very, very quickly. So I used to go out with a girl in Cardiff, and I'd drive back from her place late at night, and pulling 180 plus down a link road back to our town. And in the end, I realised it was
kilometers, obviously.
Oh, yeah. And I just thought it should never, ever impact anyone else. So there was no one on the road. If ever I hit those speeds, no one on the road. And but then I realised at some stage the helicopter might see me, and then I got a prison. So I just went, and in fact, I kind of borrowed the car for a while from that particular company for a lot of money, and then had to give it back because I couldn't afford to pay them anymore. But it was an amazing, no regrets. But it was crazy. So I took John out on a ride in there, and I had a track car as well. So I'd alternate between the two and take people out in both. And it was quite an interesting thing because you'd kind of do similar speeds, but the one was bonkers and the other was designed to do it. So yes, I did. I'm guilty. It was happy days, but I'm very happy that I don't have to pay those kind of bills anymore.
Going on with the track, the last question will touch on that. Yes, so we got one before that, which was Spencer Conway again. He's asking, we've already covered this, do you think the new Harley adventure bike, the Pan American, will it rival others in the market despite looking like an orange and grey hippo with 70s headlights? Well, we kind of covered that already, haven't we? We had quite a chat about the Pan American.
It's like a Hoover from the 60s.
Yeah, I like that. So, Dave Robinson.
Yes. Or a Lada. It looks like a 70s Lada.
It's just a weird...
Why?
In the pictures, it doesn't... It just doesn't look like it flows.
Yeah, Harley are quite good at aesthetics. They are. And why they've thought that's... Maybe it's an American thing. Maybe it just doesn't translate across the Atlantic. I don't know.
I don't know, yeah. But I'm hoping it's just, like we said before, I'm hoping it's going to be one of those bikes that when you see it in the flesh, it makes sense, but in the pictures,
it rides amazingly well.
Yeah.
I
am hearing from the Yanks who've ridden it, because it's already out over there, obviously.
Yeah.
From them, everyone is. I mean, they're going to be. I know, but everyone is like, "Shit, this is a good bike." This is a really good bike. So I'm hoping it is as good as it's made out. I think Harley has to. I think Harley's made it well. Because they're now, I thought they would do that. I said this before on a podcast with the Live Wire. I said, I wonder if Harley's future lies in electric, because it's like a total rebrand. And the Live Wire rides, for me, it rides totally differently to all the other electric, like to the Zero, to the Energicas that I'd ridden. It rides different.
Have you ridden one?
It feels like it doesn't feel like a Harley, but it has the same feeling of a Harley. When you ride a Harley, you feel like you're riding something different. And riding the Live Wire made me feel I was riding something different. Even though it's an electric bike, it's different to the other electric bikes. And I did think to myself, because electric bikes are essentially a battery with bits bolted to it, essentially.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely ripe for customization. And I just thought, I wonder if this could be the market for Harley. And they've started a new company. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. I've run a fleet of electric vehicles for all my life. And it is, people, they're worlds apart, but the basics are the same. And as much as I'm a petrol head through and through, it's an interesting future. I think definitely a really interesting future.
I'm excited by it. I genuinely am.
Yeah, I am.
I don't think petrol bikes are never going to go away. Certainly in like my lifetime, petrol bikes will never go away. It'll be like classic cars are now, and eventually like steam engines are now. They'll always have that following, won't they? But I'm not scared of the prospect of us moving to electric or hydrogen or whatever it is, whatever the next fuel.
Yeah. Well, it's taken me 54 years to buy a diesel. And move out of petrol into diesel. But I think the transition from diesel to electric will be a lot faster for me.
I don't think there's going to be a choice, is there? In terms of...
Well, probably not.
In terms of cars...
Yeah. It's an interesting world. I think it's moved. We've been kind of the same for a long time in the internal combustion engine in vehicles. And I think, the next 20 years is going to be a massive jump in sort of, ideas and knowledge coming out of that, they're making them fun. And I know when it first came out, everyone just went, it's a milk float. And I've driven enough miles in a milk float to realise they're shit. They're perfect milk floats, but it's not a world you really want to be in. To go to, they are making them fun. And that's at the end of the day, the old couple who just want to take it to Tesco's on a weekend and down to the surgery for their tablets or whatever. It doesn't make any difference. They're going to drive a Nissan Micra or a Nissan Leaf. Mm-hmm. But the people like you and me who want some sort of excitement out of it, they're doing that now. And I think that's the interesting thing. Yeah. Interesting.
I've quite an exciting project lined up with electric. I've teased at it. I can't go into any more details, but I can't wait to do it because hopefully I could prove me wrong, but hopefully this should overcome. If I manage it, it will overcome a lot of issues people have or perceive that they have with electric bikes. So fingers crossed, and it'll be happening fairly soon. So I'm looking forward to getting that.
Looking forward to that. Yeah, interesting.
Last one, Dave Robinson. Tell us again about your fun around the Nürburgring. Now, there's a story. Come on, what is the story?
Well, it's not motorcycle driven, unfortunately. So,
not interested.
Yeah, no. I'd love to take the Harley round the ring, and I would. I've never taken the Harley on a track, but I did circuit stuff in cars for 12, 14 years, something like that. Got to a point that I was all right. Supplies turn up.
Yeah, Mrs. Teapot's just handed me a beer. She's awesome.
Perfect. So I I'd go a couple of times a month, got kind of heavily into it. I was very, very lucky to end up in a circuit club, and I got taken under a few people's wings, we'll say. So I got taught by a guy called Willie Green, who at the time was Britain's best historic racer. He used to race Fangio's ex-Maserati 250F, ex-Formula 150s car. And he kind of taught me how to drive the ring. And I was very lucky and fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. And the circuit club I was with, we would rent the ring for a weekend or a couple of days, not necessarily a weekend, exclusively. So you're not dealing with double-decker buses and motorbikes and the Joe Public on it, and we'd have it exclusively. And it just so happened that before she became famous on Top Gear, one of our instructors was Sabine Schmidt. So I very, very luckily had an hour with Sabine Schmidt on the ring. And I've been lucky. I've been with Formula One, Le Mans guys, historic guys, touring car guys, test drivers from Lotus and Porsche, amazing drivers. I love being with people who just were just at the top of their game. And I don't care, the passion and the skill involved. And, I was lucky that I was in that environment, but, it could be knitting or dog trading or whatever. It doesn't matter. But these people were just the best of the best. And I was very lucky to be in that environment for a little while. And so I did an hour with Sabine around the ring. Not long before she was doing the transit van stuff. So when she did the transit van stuff on Top Gear, she stayed with the person who ran our circuit club. So she wears an RMA T-shirt on the Top Gear thing. So she was big in with us, our crowd, we'll say. So yeah, I did 4 laps with her. I don't know if you've done the ring. You ever done the ring?
I have, yeah, I've done the ring, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it is petrol head heaven.
Just amazing
If Disney invented somewhere to drive a car, it would be the Nürburgring.
Absolutely.
It just is one of the best places on earth. And I've done, Donington was my circuit of choice. I've done thousands of laps around Donington, Castle Combe, Brands Hatch, Snetterton, all the big circuits, Silverstone. I've done a few hundred laps around the ring, but out with Sabine was just bonkers. She'd never driven. I had my track car was a Lotus Elise, souped up, very, very. It's not a brilliant ring car because it's not high speed, topped out at 148. So smaller circuits it was better at. Rings got lots of long straights, so higher powered cars are better, but it handles well. She'd never driven one before. She jumped in my car. She couldn't fit the harnesses on it. I had a sort of racing seat and 6-point harness and stuff. She couldn't fit it on. So technically, she shouldn't have gone out on the circuit because she couldn't do anything up. She didn't give flying, we went off. By the second corner, she just went, I like this car. She was as mad as you would love to think she is. She was absolutely wonderful woman. And I know a few people, I think Yoka met her a few times. The people who have met her just went, she was exactly as she was on the telly. Bless. It was a very, very, I was genuinely upset when I heard of her passing away.
Passed away, didn't she?
She was just real. There was nothing about her that wasn't real. But from a talent, as I say, I've been with Formula One, test drive, all sorts of people. I have never been in a car and the fact that it was my own car, I've never been with someone who you just went, that is someone who has skill I could do 10 lifetimes and would never get. She was astonishing. She didn't kind of get track day etiquette, we'll say, from a British point of view, because if she was in a car, she just wanted to be in front of everyone. And I remember coming down to the foxhole and we were overtaking someone, and you kind of, the circuit club I was with, it was you had to be of a certain standard. So there was not as many rules as sort of a bread and butter circuit club. You could do all sorts of stuff, but you still had to be polite, we'll say. And she didn't give a monkeys. And I remember overtaking a guy in a brand new, very limited edition, very powerful Exige Lotus at the time. And we went past him, and I'm in the passenger seat. And I thought, if I leant out, I could have tickled him under his chin. And we were so close to him. And we're going to the foxhole, which is just bonkers at the best of times. And she'd never driven the thing before. So the talent on her was amazing. And then there was a 900 brake horsepowered 911 GT racer driven by a GT racer, and she went, for 6 corners we're going to have him. And I'm like, we're in my little flipping 160 70 horsepower at least, we're never going to lo and behold, she was going into corners in 4th or 5th, and I'd have been changing down to 3rd, and she was changing up to 5th. Wow. Just mesmerizing. It's one of the best hours of my life with that woman. Phenomenal. She was just astonishing. And when we finished, pulled up at the pits, and her husband, who ran one of the biggest sausage factories in Germany, which is, obviously, he flew over us in his matte black little helicopter.
The fun I'm going to have editing the teaser, the trailer for this podcast. Awesome.
So yeah, I feel I was very privileged to have that situation. And again, I just happened to be the right person in the right place at the right time. And it didn't come easy. A lot of this stuff didn't come easy. So please don't think I've had this, joyous, I have had a joyous life, but some of it's not easy. But that hour in particular will stay with me till the day I die.
Fantastic.
It's just if you have an ounce of petrol in your veins, that's the hour you want with an ounce of petrol in your veins.
Oh,
strange.
What an awesome point to finish.
Thank you, Dave.
That's 3 hours, man. 3 hours. Happy days. Awesome.
You knew it
Gareth,
wouldn't go easy.
Well, no, I've loved it. I could do another 3, to be perfectly honest. I've found out, I never realised you were such a big sort of petrol head, track fiend. I never knew that about you at all.
Yeah. Well, my mum always said, you'll find something you're good at. And I don't want to blow my own trumpet because there's many people who are much better than me. I could hustle a car around a circuit quite well. I got kind of quite good at that. And I got told by people who were a lot better than I'll ever be that I could do that quite well. I drove a car much better than I rode a motorbike, but I love motorbikes and cars with tools. It's quite a weird thing. And I've been without a car for many years, but I've never been without a motorbike. So my passion is motorbikes, but I could hustle a car quite well.
I'm a bit like that with food. I'm really good at eating, but I'm not that great at cooking.
Does your wife cook well?
No. I do the cooking. She can't cook. She can cook, but I do the cooking most of the time. Most of the time, it's me.
I like that analogy, though. That is, that's quite, I'm lucky because Maria is a fantastic cook and loves to cook. And much to her annoyance, she keeps saying, I've got to cook at least 2 or 3 times a week, but I only cook once a week. And I cook Italian, and that's my thing. And I do that okay. But she said, well, you cook something else. I said, but you won't like it because she likes everything with chilies in it. So that's quite a good thing. So.
Awesome. Dude, Gareth, where can people go to find out more about the trips that you've done? Is there a record anywhere where people can go?
So Pan Without a Plan on Facebook, and apologies if you go on it. So I did the Pan Without a Plan is where it all started from that point of view. I don't do much historic stuff. I've been very lucky. A mate of mine I didn't take photos for years. And a mate of mine did, and he's just been archiving it all on Facebook. So there's stuff which I haven't put up on that, but stuff from when I was on with Chap, and I look about 12 years old and drunk in, sort of campsites in Portugal and France and stuff. So Pan Without a Plan is the site where the Harley trip was. And I think I also put up the Fruit Adventure stuff on there, which have a look at the Fruit Adventure. You can Google the Fruit Adventure. That was a very unique trip and an amazing project. But the Pan is my trip, and that's the thing I'm proud of. And that's where, my life changed. So Pan Without a Plan, unfortunately, I am not very proactive with it. So have a look at it. Go back to the interesting stuff. There'll be more stuff on it when I go and do more stuff, but I'm not going to put stuff on it. It's just day to day, hey, I'm working on the bike today. I'm not proactive, but go and have a look at, there's some people kind of quite like the photos. I mean, you put up the few, the elephant one is everyone loves, and
I love that picture.
And, Namibia and stuff. It's just, but if you get the chance, look at my photos, go and do your own journey out there, or in France or Cornwall or wherever. Go and do your own.
Folks, I will put links to that Pan Without a Plan in the show notes and in the vid description. So if you listen to the podcast, check out the show notes. If you're watching the vid, look at the description down below. Gareth, before we go, mate, is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything you want to promote, or any shout outs you want to give? Feel free.
See, I'm so rubbish. I mean, I always vowed I'd write a book, and I kind of got halfway through it. I did notes on the journey, so I'd had this cunning plan that everyone travel. People who travel solo, you go. The riding's fantastic, but when you stop in the evening, you just get bored and lonely. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll take a shit motorbike and I'll take that. So I won't get bored and lonely. I'll work on the bike every night.
I'll be fixing it.
Because I'll be busy and I won't be bored. And thankfully, the bike ran really, really well. So I didn't have to work on it. So I ended up writing a diary. And so I ended up doing, 40,000 words on this thing, and got into it really well. If some people who know me from years back go, "You're not writing anything, you're an idiot," but I actually really enjoyed writing it. And I thought, I've got to do something. But you come home and then life takes over and you're not in the moment anymore. And I thought, when I retire, I'll write the book. And then COVID happened and I've been kind of doing other stuff. So eventually I will write the book. But other than that, I have absolutely nothing to plug. I don't court anything at all, apart from just ride a motorbike and ride it somewhere. Just go and ride a motorbike and enjoy. Don't get stressed out with stuff. Don't get in with the media. Don't think I can't go on a journey because I've got the wrong helmet or jacket or motorbike or anything. If you want to do it, just go and do it. There is no barrier other than your own head, basically.
Absolutely. Amen to that. I couldn't say it any better. Awesome. Mate, I've absolutely slangs to you. I have absolutely loved spending the last 3 odd hours chatting with you. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to do it face to face again.
Hopefully, come down. I've thrown the gauntlet down from your test ride YouTube thing.
You're on.
Come and ride the pan when you're in this neck of the woods. I mean, we're out and about. We're not going anywhere for the next few months for sure. So come down. We can put you up in the house or the morgue or whatever. Yeah. Come. It would be. Not many people have ridden Harley. Craig Carey Cinch has ridden it. Dylan rode it. Dylan Wickramer. A couple of mates rode it. Hardly anyone's ridden it. And it would just be interesting to get someone who's kind of got a bit wider view on things to ride it and just get a little insight into it. So you're always welcome down this neck of the woods anyway.
Let's make it happen, brother. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And I'll do my best not to break anything else in the mog. I'm really sorry about that. I didn't realise I'd done that. So sorry.
It cost me about £3 to fix it, Bruce. Don't stress. But it was funny because when you came up with that, I thought, what am I going to say? What's the key thing I know about Bruce? He was one of the. It was so the mog was. When we took it to Overland, we'd gone a few places. Helen Lloyd? Have you ever interviewed Helen?
Yeah, I know Helen. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I was thinking about her the other day about asking her if she'd come on.
Helen is just a joy of a girl. I mean, we go and stay with Helen. The first place we took the mog was to Helen's place. Helen's brilliant. You'll love. She's so not. She's just so normal, and then you get out
and you look at what she's done.
You just go. Yeah. You're a bloody lunatic.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to see her. I'm going up to Hereford because she lives just outside. She lives about 20 minutes from Baskerville. She came down and stayed the other week, and she's bought another overlanding pedal bike. So God knows where that's going. But it's in my garage. Yeah, it's in my garage, and I got to drop it up to her on the weekend. So, Helen was the first place we took the mog when we got it up to her place. And then the second place we took it was Winter Warmer. And when we got there, Mark Connell, and I don't know if you know Mark, one of the overland crowd, quite a quietish guy. He knows me and Maria quite well. And when Maria said, we're going to bring it up to the Overland Winter Rent, but it ain't going to be a party bus. And you met Maria. It's not going to be a party bus.
The first thing you said to me at the bar, Maria said that. She said that this will not be a party bus. And we were all like, okay. And then when the pub shut, she was the first one to say, 2 hours.
She's an animal. And she said, right, everyone back. And I think it was yourself. I think Yoka might have been in it.
Helen
Michelle.
Michelle. Mm-hmm.
Michelle was in it, and that was the first party we had in the mog. So you were, it was quite funny, and the fact that when you got up, it was just like bang, smash.
Oh,
it's like it's a party bus, and long may that continue.
Let's make the test ride of the pan happen. I will definitely come see you. I'm well up for that.
Yeah, and whenever. Welcome to stay. You can stay in the house, stay in the mog, whatever. We'll work something.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, come down and try. That would be a really interesting thing because people ride it. My brother rode it. He's got an MV4 S. Oh well, for Oro actually. Before they released the S, and he's got a 92 Fireblade.
Oh wow!
And has had it since 93. So he likes his sport bikes. He rode it before I went to Africa. I'd done lots of Europe on it. He rode it about a mile up the road from work and back and went, it's like sitting on the toilet, because that's what it feels like. And he said, I can't believe you ride this to work. And I live 2 miles from my work. He said, I can't believe you ride it to work, let alone ride Europe. It's fucking useless. So just to put you in the picture.
Awesome. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Yeah. And on that note, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been, I can't believe it's been 3 hours. I've absolutely loved it, man.
Yeah, no, it's been a real play. And it certainly ain't a chore, mate.
Beautiful.
Good luck with what you do. And the reason it does well is because you do it well.
Oh, I'm here. Oh, thank you very much, but it's all about the guests. It's all about the guests.
Yeah, it doesn't work without them. The man in charge.
Keep on doing your thing. I hope you've enjoyed this one. And I think Gareth has highlighted this perfectly about what he said earlier. Look after those that you love. Get on out there and live your life. Woo-ha!
I'll drink to that. Cheers, Bruce. Thank you all for your amazing questions. Thanks for the invite. Enjoy the summer.
Absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for that. It's been genuinely a good fun.